We all know that Krishna is the playful god with a flute and a taste for stolen butter, but few pause to picture the other side of his story. Lifting mountains on a finger, being born in a dark prison under a tyrant's threat. In this gentle journey, we'll explore what your life as Krishna would feel like. In today's video, we'll talk about his prophecy and prison birth. So let's not waste any time and let's begin. Long before your first breath, a prophecy rippled through Mathura like an unseen wind. The eighth child of Devaki would be Kamsa's downfall. The tyrant's cruel laughter turned to paranoia, and he seized his sister and her husband, chaining them in a damp underground cell. You awaken here, in the half-darkness, as Devaki struggles through another labor. The air is thick with moisture and fear, smelling faintly of iron and moss. Stone walls press close on all sides. A single torch flickers in the corridor, casting trembling shadows across Devaki's tired face. Vasudeva kneels beside her, whispering ancient mantras, his voice hushed, so the guards will not hear. Between his whispered syllables, you catch the clink of chains as he moves, the heavy iron biting into his skin. Outside, the roar of a storm builds. You can feel the prison floor tremble with distant thunder, as if the earth itself recognizes the moment. Devaki's breaths come in gasps. Perspiration beads on her brow despite the chill. In those brief pauses when she gathers strength, a strange peace descends, as if time stretches to accommodate the birthing of something vast and eternal. In one of these pauses, the room suddenly feels brighter. A soft radiance fills the cell, emanating from nowhere and everywhere at once. The torchlight seems to pause in mid-flicker, and even the storm outside holds its breath. Devaki gives a final cry, and then silence, followed by the clear, strong wail of a newborn. You take your first breath in this confined space and feel the air crackle with destiny. The iron shackles around your parents' wrists seem lighter, as if acknowledging a force beyond their strength. Vasudeva's eyes shine with both joy and fear. In his arms you see yourself, an infant with skin the color of rain-soaked earth and eyes that seem to hold galaxies. For a moment, the confines of the prison are forgotten. Devaki cradles you, brushing her cheek against yours, whispering blessings through tears. Then reality intrudes. If Kamsa learns of your birth, he will kill you. There is no time to linger in this miracle. Outside, rain begins to pound against the palace roof, each drop a staccato reminder of the urgency. The Yamuna River, swollen by monsoon rains, roars through the city streets, threatening to flood its banks. Gently, with reverence and haste, Vasudeva wraps you in a piece of cloth. His chains fall away, miraculously unlocked, clattering softly onto the straw-littered floor. He glances toward the sleeping guards, now inexplicably inert, their breaths slow and even. You feel his heart pounding as he holds you close, covering you from the storm. The heavy door to the cell swings open soundlessly. Water pools in the corridor, cold around your father's bare feet. Each step is cautious, yet purposeful. Above ground, the tempest rages, wind howling through narrow lanes, rain lashing walls and rooftops. Lightning flashes momentarily reveal the outlines of Kamsa's palace, tall, imposing, and now small in the face of the elements. The palace gates open as if of their own accord, and Vasudeva slips into the night. Rain drenches him instantly. You can feel the chill through the cloth, but his arms cradle you with warmth. The Yamuna, swollen and wild, foams at the city's edge. Standing on the banks, Vasudeva hesitates only briefly. In the darkness, a massive serpent rises from the water. It is Shesha, the ancient guardian, its hooded head forming a canopy above you. The serpent's jeweled scales shimmer in the lightning flashes, its eyes, calm and deep, It arches its body over the churning water, creating a path. Vasudeva steps into the river, waist deep at first, then chest deep. The current pushes hard, tugging at his legs, but Shesha's body breaks the worst of it. Rain cascades from the serpent's hood, drumming softly around you like a protective lullaby. The crossing seems both endless and instantaneous. Each step through the cold current is a testament to love and resolve. You sense the river's power, its currents, swirling like destiny itself, yet you remain dry under Shesha's shelter. Thunder booms overhead, and lightning illuminates the far bank, lush, green and peaceful. Finally, Vasudeva's feet touch solid ground on the other side. He sinks to his knees in gratitude, still holding you. Behind him, the Yamuna continues to roar, carrying away the last sounds of the city. Ahead lies the village of Gokul, where cattle graze and children laugh. As Shesha slips back into the depths and the storm begins to ease, your father whispers a promise: you will be safe here. The tranquility of the countryside beckons, the scent of wet earth and cow dung already drifting on the breeze. Without looking back, Vasudeva carries you toward this pastoral refuge, leaving the prison's darkness behind as your journey moves toward its next chapter. The storm has passed by the time you open your eyes again. Instead of prison walls, you see the low wooden beams of a simple cottage. Dawn light filters through woven mats, and beyond the window you hear cows lowing as they're led to pasture. The rhythmic creaking of a churn answers them, and someone hums an old folk tune. You inhale deeply. The scent of fresh butter hangs heavy in the air, mingling with the earthy smell of wet mud and trampled hay. Somewhere outside a peacock calls, its high cry echoed by the cooing of pigeons roosting in the rafters. A soft hand strokes your cheek, and you look up into Yashoda's loving eyes. Her smile crinkles at the edges, and she whispers your new name with reverence. Nanda, sturdy and sun-browned, stands nearby, a basket of fodder under one arm and joy evident on his face. Though you are not born of their bodies, their love flows as naturally as the river you crossed. Life in Gokul is communal. The village is a cluster of thatched roofs and mud walls, set amid lush fields and groves of kadamba trees. Men and women rise before sunrise to milk cows and turn the churn, their hands working with practiced ease. Children chase each other around courtyards, ankle bells jingling. Elders sit under banyan trees recounting stories from memory. You hear their voices, soothing and musical, blending with the village's daily rhythms. When Yashoda carries you outside, warm sunlight caresses your skin. Neighbors gather around, cooing and touching your tiny hands. Even the cows seem curious, nuzzling you with wet noses. They have just been bathed, and their hides are slick and cool. The smell of dung is almost sweet when mixed with the floral scent of marigolds strung around their horns. As days pass, you grow quickly. Soon you can sit, then crawl. Your fingers explore everything: the texture of clay pots, the softness of calf hair, the coarseness of jute rope. Nanda lifts you onto his lap and points out the distant hills, teaching you the names of trees and birds. You respond with babbles and gurgles that make Yashoda laugh until tears shine in her eyes. At night, she sings lullabies about gods and warriors, her voice low and hypnotic, sending you into dreams under the thatched roof. The community watches over you as if you were everyone's child. If Yashoda sets you down to pound rice, a neighbor will scoop you up and bounce you on her hip. When you first stand on wobbling legs, cheers erupt as though you have conquered a kingdom. The warmth of this attention wraps around you like a soft blanket, leaving no room for loneliness. The landscape itself seems enchanted. You are carried along narrow paths, lined with flowering shrubs, where butterflies flit from bloom to bloom. In the distance, the Yamuna glitters in the sun, tamed and calm, reflecting the clouds sailing above. Herds of cows graze along its banks, their bells tinkling like distant wind chimes. You watch dragonflies dart across the water's surface, creating ripples that blend and vanish, just as your memories of the prison fade. The days are punctuated by small ceremonies, the naming of a calf, the blessing of a newborn, the lighting of lamps at dusk. Each one connects you to the rhythms of village life and the cycles of nature. You feel how time here moves differently, measured not by fear or oppression, but by seasons and harvests. Yashoda delights in dressing you. She weaves tiny garlands of jasmine and ties them around your wrists and ankles. She anoints your forehead with sandal paste, its scent cooling on your skin. When she feeds you, she tastes the food first, checking its temperature with her lips, then coaxes you to open your mouth. The flavors are simple and wholesome: fresh butter, sweet milk, mashed rice. Sometimes, instead of eating, you reach for the pot itself, fascinated by its roundness and the cream clinging to its sides. Yashoda laughs, gently guiding your hand away. But curiosity burns bright within you. On more than one occasion, you manage to crawl toward a churn left unattended. You pull yourself up, tiny fingers gripping the wooden frame, and peer over the edge. The butter inside shines like solid moonlight. Your eyes widen with delight, and a mischievous gleam sparks there. You stretch your hand toward the soft mass, intent on feeling that cool, rich texture. Just before your fingers sink into it, Yashoda's call rings out from across the courtyard. You glance back, butter forgotten. For now. She scoops you up, showering you with kisses, but the seed of mischief has been planted. As dusk settles and the village lights flicker to life, you drift to sleep, dreaming of creamy pots and gleaming treasures. In the days ahead, this playful curiosity will bloom into legendary escapades, a hint of which will carry us into the next chapter. Morning in Gokul opens with splashes of color and sound. Sunlight scatters through leaves, dappling the courtyards, where calves nudge their mothers and women pour milk into clay pots. You are a toddler now, your feet sure on the packed earth, your balance guided by curiosity more than caution. You wander barefoot, anklets tinkling softly, leaving tiny imprints in the dust. Your eyes dart from one delight to another, a row of freshly churned butter pots, glistening under a tree, a playful calf nosing at the hem of a sari, the bright red hibiscus tucked into a gopi's braid. Laughter escapes you in small bursts, clear and bright like bells. It rings out when you sneak up behind a cow and tug gently on her tail, or when you splash water on friends at the village well. The world is your playground, and every corner holds the promise of adventure. Butter, however, is your greatest temptation. The churn is set up in the shade, a large clay vessel brimming with cream, its wooden handle creaking rhythmically under women's hands. You watch, transfixed by the pale swirl, your fingers twitching. When they turn their backs, you make your move. You scamper over, balance on your toes, and reach up with sticky hands. The butter is cool and yielding, a soft mound that gives way to your touch. You scoop out a handful and taste it. It melts instantly, rich and sweet, coating your tongue. The thrill of the forbidden makes your heart beat faster. You glance around with conspiratorial delight, eyes shining. Of course, mischief seldom goes unnoticed. The gopis are both amused and exasperated. They shake their heads and wag their fingers at you, not quite able to suppress smiles. "You little butter thief," they scold, as they gather the splattered bits and clean the floor. When Yashoda hears the commotion, she wipes her hands on her sari and rushes over. Her forehead is furrowed, but there is warmth in her gaze. She lifts you into her arms and looks straight at you. "Did you take the butter again?" she asks. Your response is a feigned innocence, a tilt of the head, a wide-eyed look that tries to hide the telltale smear on your lips. Yashoda frowns, seeing the butter on your cheeks. "Open your mouth," she commands, half expecting to find the culprit evidence. Obediently, you comply. As your lips part, something extraordinary happens. Instead of crumbs of butter or bits of curd, she sees galaxies. An entire cosmos unfurls before her. Countless suns, swirling nebula, planets spinning in endless night. Mountains and oceans flash by. Vast skies with thunderheads and rainbows. Fields golden with grain. Rivers winding through forests. She sees herself, tiny and awestruck, staring into a universe contained within your small frame. The sight takes her breath away. Her hands tremble, and she stumbles backward, the clay pot slipping from her grasp. The butter on the ground seems trivial now, compared to the galaxies swirling in your mouth. The air feels charged, almost humming, as if the very atoms around you are aware of their place in a greater scheme. For a heartbeat, time holds still. Yashoda's eyes are wide, reflecting stars. Her mind races to comprehend how the child she cradled, scolded, fed and dressed, could also contain such vastness. Then, just as suddenly, the vision is gone. Your mouth closes, and your cheeks puff slightly as you giggle, oblivious to the revelation you have granted. The clay pot lies broken, butter spilled across the dirt, gleaming like tiny moons. Yashoda presses her palm to her chest to steady her heart. She whispers a prayer of gratitude and fear, reverence and love. She realizes that while you will always be her little boy, you are also beyond her understanding. Word of such wonders spreads quietly through Gokul. Some laugh them off as tales spun by doting mothers, but others notice signs. Your uncanny strength, your uncanny calm. The whispers mingle with rumors carried by merchants and travelers. Rumors of a tyrant in Mathura growing uneasy, of dark forces sent to find the child destined to topple him. For now, the village remains wrapped in its routine. Cows grazing, children playing, elders telling stories. But a subtle tension creeps in. The elders watch the road more carefully, scanning for strangers. The women draw their shawls tighter when they go to the river. Your mischief continues, more joyous, now that Yashoda has seen what lies within you. Yet beyond the fields and groves, another presence stirs. Far away, in a palace heavy with fear, the demoness Putana receives her orders. She will come soon, disguised and deadly. As you scamper away, hands slick with butter and laughter ringing, the breeze carries a new scent, faint, foreign, slightly metallic, hinting at the danger approaching. The days in Gokul unfold like verses of a gentle song. After the awe-filled vision Yashoda saw in your mouth, life settles again into familiar rhythms. Milking cows at dawn, children's laughter at noon, and devotional songs at twilight. The village is wrapped in green after the monsoon, the air fragrant with flowering jasmine. Yet a whisper of unease rustles through the leaves like a breeze before rain. Mothers keep their children closer, and elders glance more often toward the narrow path that leads in from the fields. Stories of a distant tyrant's anger drift in on the wind. One morning, as mist curls low over the ground, and dew beads on spider webs, a perfumed breeze arrives from beyond the village. The fragrance is intoxicating, sweet, like champaka blossoms and herbs, carrying with it a subtle, unfamiliar note. You sit on Yashoda's hip, nibbling on a piece of sweetened rice, when a tall woman enters the courtyard. She is striking, skin like burnished bronze, eyes soft and maternal, clothed in fine silk. She carries herself like a goddess, and her anklets chime softly as she walks. She smiles warmly, though the warmth does not reach the depths of her eyes. In her arms she carries a pot of ointment and a cloth. She tells Yashoda that she is a healer, traveling from village to village to bless newborns and protect them from evil spirits. Her voice is soothing, almost hypnotic. Yashoda, trusting yet cautious, steps aside reluctantly. The woman reaches out her arms, and you lean toward her out of curiosity. As she takes you, her hands feel cool against your skin, cool like the smooth surface of a river stone, but an undercurrent of cold runs beneath. You notice how her pulse seems absent, her touch lacking the gentle trembling of life. She coos softly, rocking you with practiced ease, and begins to hum a lullaby. The melody is lovely, but beneath it is a whispering hiss, like wind through dry reeds. Her scent envelops you. It is rich and heavy, lulling and cloying all at once. Without waiting for permission, she lowers the edge of her garment, revealing her breast. Yashoda gasps, realizing too late that something is wrong. The air seems to thicken, and the mist presses closer. The woman's eyes gleam for a fraction of a second with something sinister, then soften again. She brings you to her breast. You instinctively latch, but instead of milk, you taste bitterness, poison, mixed with nectar. It burns faintly, but you do not let go. You draw in deeply, not sucking nourishment, but pulling something else. The woman stiffens. Her humming stops abruptly. She tries to pull away, but your grip is iron. The perfumed air grows sharp, tinged with the metallic tang of fear. The morning fog muffles her scream. It rises up, strangled, somewhere between a moan and a wail. Her eyes widen as the life force drains from her, her limbs trembling. The perfume now smells rancid, like crushed herbs left too long in the sun. Around you, the courtyard seems to hold its breath. Cows pause mid-chew, birds cease their calls. Even the churn in the corner quiets, its wooden handle still. Within moments, the woman's mask drops. The beautiful healer's visage twists and stretches, revealing the true form of Putana, skin turning ashen, veins darkening, nails elongating like talons. Yet you remain calm, your gaze steady and unfearful. You do not stop until every drop of poison and every ounce of her malevolence has been drawn out and neutralized. Finally, with a final shudder, Putana falls backward. Her massive body shakes the ground, stirring up clouds of dust. The villagers rush in, gasping at the sight of the slain demoness, her corpse enormous and grotesque now that her magic veil has lifted. A stench rises briefly, bitter and sour, before it transforms into the scent of sandalwood and flowers, purified by your presence. Yashoda clutches you to her chest, tears of fear and gratitude mingling on her cheeks. Men and women bow to you, their foreheads touching the earth, murmuring prayers and praises. Relief washes over the village like a fresh breeze, but with it comes an undercurrent of dread. If this is only the first of Kamsa's emissaries, what else might be on its way? They burn Putana's body outside the village, flames crackling and smoke curling up toward the sky. The pyre's warmth contrasts with the cool morning air. The crackling wood and chanting of mantras mingle with the calls of circling hawks. When the fire dies down and the ashes scatter, life resumes, but no one forgets the sight of you calmly sucking the life from a demon's breast. They whisper your name with new reverence, and your playful escapades take on a different sheen. As night falls, the breeze sough through the kadamba trees, rustling leaves with an almost speaking voice. It carries hints of other presences moving in the distance, dark shapes stirring beyond the fields, eyes watching from forest edges. In their homes, the villagers double bar their doors, clutching their children close. You, however, sleep peacefully, Yashoda's arm draped protectively around you, unaware of the shadows that gather. Somewhere beyond, another demonic foe readies himself, and the rustle of leaves hints that Gokul's tranquility will soon be tested again. Life in Gokul, though often touched by the extraordinary, continues to be punctuated by festivals and communal joy. One afternoon, villagers gather under banners festooned with marigolds and mango leaves. Children giggle and dart through the crowd. Women sing as they light oil lamps, and men arrange offerings on mats. A wooden cart stands nearby, piled high with clay pots and baskets of fruit for the celebration. The cart is old, its wheels groaning under the weight. People move around it, placing garlands and shifting crates, unaware of the hidden danger. Beneath the cheerful surface, Sakatasura, a malevolent spirit sent by Kamsa, lurks, waiting to crush life in the village. You toddle toward the cart, drawn by the shiny pots and dangling ropes. Yashoda, busy arranging plates of food, doesn't notice at first. Just as the villagers step away, the heavy cart creaks ominously. For a moment, everyone thinks the weight of the offerings has shifted. Then the entire structure tilts, beginning to topple toward you. Gasps ring out. Yashoda turns in horror, her hands frozen mid-motion. Dust rises as the cart starts to collapse. Without any apparent effort, you raise your tiny foot and kick. The movement is small, almost playful, but the effect is monumental. The cart flies back as though struck by a force far greater than a child's foot. Pots soar into the air. Fruit spills in a colorful cascade, and the cart lands several feet away with a heavy thud. Sakatasura's presence dissipates like smoke caught in a breeze. The villagers stand in stunned silence before rushing to gather you up, tears of relief mingling with laughter. They whisper to each other with awe. Could this little boy truly be the protector they'd heard tales about? The festival resumes, albeit with deeper reverence. Songs take on new meaning, and every gesture is infused with gratitude. Days later, while the memory of the cart's flight still lingers, the sky over Gokul shifts. A hot, dry wind rises unexpectedly, whipping dust into spirals. It starts as a distant humming, a subtle vibration that makes leaves tremble. You sit in Yashoda's lap, playing with her necklace, when the wind grows stronger. Villagers look up from their chores. Men shield their eyes and women secure their veils. The air thickens and darkens, and birds take to the shelter of trees. Suddenly, a whirlwind descends upon the village, spiraling down like a column of smoke and debris. It spins faster and faster, sucking loose straw and flower petals into its vortex. This is Trinavata, another of Kamsa's demons, hiding within the storm. Before anyone can react, the whirlwind shrinks and darts toward you. It wraps around you like invisible arms and lifts you off the ground. Yashoda's fingers close on empty air, and a cry escapes her lips. The villagers shout your name, their voices lost in the roar of wind. Up you soar, higher than the rooftops, higher than the tallest trees. The world below becomes a blur of green and brown. Dust stings your eyes, and the rush of wind roars in your ears. The sensation of spinning is dizzying, but you remain calm. You do not cling or wail. Instead, you look straight into the heart of the storm. Your eyes are steady, unafraid. Within the whirlwind's swirling form, you see the demon's essence: confusion, anger, desperation. Your gaze pierces it. Trinavata falters. His spiraling motion wobbles, then slows. The wind's howl softens, and the air begins to clear. He cannot sustain his fury under your tranquil scrutiny. The demon twists and convulses, trying to regain his momentum, but it is too late. With your small hands, you grasp at the unseen strands of wind, gathering them like threads. You squeeze. Trinavata chokes, his power collapsing inward. The whirlwind loses shape and strength. It becomes a swirling eddy, and then nothing. You feel weightless for a heartbeat, suspended in open air, and then you begin to descend. The spin has stopped. The rush of wind becomes a gentle breeze. You float down slowly, as if carried on the palm of a giant unseen hand. The ground approaches, and there are Yashoda's arms, outstretched, trembling yet ready. She catches you, pulling you against her chest, sobbing with relief. The villagers cheer and cry, their fear dissolving into joyous laughter. Dust settles onto hair and shoulders, and the scent of churned earth mingles with that of wildflowers. Once again, the village is saved. People pick up scattered cloths and overturned baskets, resetting what has been disrupted. They share the tale of the whirlwind as they work, marveling at your stillness in the face of chaos. Laughter begins to ring freely again. Children's games resume, and the cows return to grazing. Life returns to normal, yet something subtle has shifted. The elders exchange glances, acknowledging silently that darker forces persist beyond the horizon. As dusk falls, the sun paints the Yamuna with streaks of gold and crimson. A hiss rises from the river's edge, a faint, almost imperceptible sound like bubbles breaking the surface. It mixes with the evening chorus of crickets, easy to overlook. Only if one listens closely does it hint at the coiling body of a serpent lurking beneath the water. The villagers, however, are content for now to celebrate with songs and lamps, unaware that the serene river hides another challenge waiting to surface. The monsoon recedes, leaving Gokul in a glow of green. Fields ripple like waves in the breeze, and the Yamuna flows placidly, reflecting the brilliant blue of the open sky. Cows stand knee-deep along its banks, chewing lazily, while women come and go with pots balanced gracefully on their heads. Children splash in the shallows, their laughter mingling with the water's gentle murmur. Yet as days pass, something shifts. The river's surface begins to take on an oily sheen. Fish float belly up, and the air carries a strange, acrid odor. Birds skim low, then veer away, unsettled. Rumors spread of a great serpent polluting the waters, coiling in the depths, its venom leaching into the current. Its name is Kaliya, a serpent banished from the sea, who now claims the Yamuna for his lair. You watch the river change from a safe distance, sensing the unease that now hovers over Gokul. Elders whisper that if Kaliya remains, the village will die of thirst. Determination rises in you. One day, without a word, you walk toward the river. The sand is warm under your feet, and the midday sun glints off darkening water. Yashoda's voice calls out from behind you, laden with fear, but you do not stop. When you reach the bank, you take a breath deep into your belly. The air smells of mud and decay. Then you step into the Yamuna. The cool water climbs your ankles, then your knees, and soon envelops your torso. The current pulls you gently at first, then more insistently as you wade deeper. You feel the river's chill seeping into your bones, the silty bottom shifting under your feet. When the water closes over your head, sound changes. The river murmurs secrets in your ears. Currents whisper past your skin. Your eyes open to a greenish light, and you see the riverbed sloping downward into a shadowed abyss. There, coiled upon itself like a mountain of black rope, is Kaliya. His body is massive, thick as a tree trunk, scales slick and dark. His many heads sway above the coils, tongues tasting the water. Venom drips from his fangs, seeping into the current, turning it foul. His eyes gleam red in the murk. As you approach, Kaliya rears back, prepared to strike. He hisses. The sound vibrates through the water like distant thunder. He lunges. In an instant, his coils wrap around you, constricting like cold, hard iron. The pressure tightens. It squeezes your chest, pushing air from your lungs. The water grows darker as his venom spreads, but you remain calm. You place a hand on Kaliya's scaled skin. It is icy and rough, like a stone at the bottom of a winter river. Slowly, you begin to push back. Your body glows faintly, light radiating outwards, and the coils loosen. With a swift motion, you slip free and launch yourself onto his expansive hood. You begin to dance. The river's current becomes your rhythm, and the serpentine body beneath you provides the stage. Your feet tap and leap lightly, stamping out a tempo. Each step resonates through Kaliya's heads like drumbeats. The weight of your movement, though slight, pounds him into submission. He rears and twists, trying to throw you off, but your balance is perfect. You dance on one head, then another, moving from hood to hood, as if stepping on lily pads. The river around you churns. Waves break the surface, and foam swirls. Villagers gather on the banks, clutching one another, watching the water seethe and ripple. They hear your anklets ringing faintly beneath the water's roar, and though they cannot see the dance, they feel its power in the ground beneath their feet. Kaliya, exhausted and humbled, ceases his thrashing. His eyes soften, his breathing slows. He realizes he is facing not an ordinary child but a divine force. As you press down on his central head, you feel his resistance melt away. The dance becomes softer, slower, and the tension in his coils dissipates. You lean forward and place your palm on his crown in blessing. His venom stops flowing. The dark clouds around you begin to clear. Kaliya promises to leave the Yamuna and never return. He slides from beneath you, moving with surprising grace for such a large creature. His long body cuts through the water, leaving behind swirling eddies that soon settle. You watch him disappear downstream, his many heads dipping one by one beneath the surface. As he goes, the river lightens. The oily film dissolves, replaced by sparkling ripples. Fish return, darting around your legs. Water birds swoop down to drink, their wings casting fleeting shadows on the surface. You swim upward. The sunlight breaks through the water above, golden and inviting. You break the surface, gasping air scented with fresh river and warm earth. Cheers erupt from the banks. Arms reach out to pull you ashore, Yashoda's strong, trembling hands among them. She wraps you in a cloth, pressing her cheek to your wet hair, sobbing and laughing at once. The villagers chant your name, clap their hands, and some kneel to touch the river in gratitude. That evening, fires are lit along the riverbank. Sparks rise into the clear night sky, stars reflecting on the now pristine surface of the Yamuna. Men retell the story of your battle, their voices animated. Women sing lullabies that weave this new victory into old melodies. Children mimic your dance by stamping on imaginary snakes near the fire. The scent of roasting grain and ghee fills the air. Though exhaustion weighs on everyone, there is also exhilaration. They have witnessed danger and deliverance, fear and joy. Laughter returns, louder than the hiss that still occasionally whispers from deep within the river, foreshadowing future challenges. In the flickering firelight, your eyes gleam with mischief and serenity, hinting that after battles and heroics, there will still be time for play and festival, preludes to the adventures yet to come. The Yamuna is once again clear, flowing bright under the sun. Life settles into a rhythm of peace, punctuated by the memory of battles won. Yet with peace comes an explosion of playful energy. Now that dangers have retreated, your mischief finds new avenues. The whole village knows the glint in your eye when you gather your friends together. You whisper secrets behind cupped hands, tiny conspirators plotting their next escapade. The target is always butter. In Gokul, butter is precious. Women churn it early in the morning, leaning into the rhythm of the wooden dashes, coaxing milk into thick cream. They store it in tall earthen pots hung from rafters, away from roaming cats and playful hands. The butter is cool and creamy, fragrant from being churned with cardamom and tulsi. To you and your band of friends, it is irresistible treasure. On the day of a gopi's daughter's naming ceremony, when she has churned extra butter for guests, you spy an opportunity. You lead your friends quietly to her courtyard. One kneels, so you can step onto his back. Another steadies the pot, and a third watches the doorway. Your fingers reach, just barely, over the rim of the pot. The butter inside is pale and shining, almost silver in the filtered light. With a triumphant giggle, you scoop out a handful and pass it down. Soon, sticky fingers and mouths glisten, and suppressed laughter bubbles up like a stream breaking through pebbles. The sound of clinking bracelets and footsteps causes you to freeze, hearts hammering. The gopi returns and gasps. You and your friends scatter in all directions, leaving a trail of buttery handprints on walls and floors. The gopi's complaints are half serious, half affectionate. They gather by Yashoda's door, calling her name. One declares that she had hung her butter high, only to find footprints on the wall, and the pot empty. Another shakes her head, describing how you boldly took butter from under her nose, then smiled and wiped your hands on her sari. A third holds up a rope, claiming she will tie you herself next time she catches you. They are frustrated, but their eyes sparkle with amusement. They wag their fingers at you while suppressing smiles. Your son is the chief of thieves, they scold Yashoda. He forms a gang, he sings songs to distract us, and then he steals butter as if he owns it. They threaten to take you to the king if she doesn't control you, yet they cannot hide their admiration. Yashoda's embarrassment is genuine, but she also feels a secret pride that so many people love her child. She listens, making promises, but she knows well that you will find ways around any new measures. To appease the gopis and teach you a lesson, Yashoda decides to bind you. After one particularly messy raid, she catches you with butter smeared in your hair, your smile unapologetic. She wipes your face, trying not to laugh, and says sternly, "Enough is enough." She fetches a length of rope and leads you to a heavy, wooden grinding mortar kept near the kitchen. The mortar, used to grind spices and grains, is large and solid, its rounded shape smooth from years of use. She wraps the rope around your waist and then around the mortar, intending to tie you there so you cannot run off on another adventure. The rope feels rough against your skin, and the mortar is cool against your back. But when she tries to knot it, she finds the rope is too short. She frowns, pulls the rope tighter, and tries again. Still too short. She fetches another piece of rope and knots it to the first, winding it around you and the mortar once more. Again it falls short. Each time she adds a new length, it remains just a few inches too short. Her brow furrows deeper, and her frustration rises. The gopis peek in, hands covering their mouths as they laugh softly. Finally, Yashoda wipes her brow, strands of hair sticking to her damp forehead, and in exasperation she gives up. She has tried and tried, but the rope refuses to meet. She looks at you, breathless and amazed. In that moment, she glimpses your boundlessness. How can a rope of earthly measure contain something infinite? Her anger dissolves into awe. Nonetheless, she ties the rope loosely in a bow, leaving you to sit next to the mortar, with a half-hearted scolding. You sit quietly for a while, fingers tracing the grooves in the wood, until your friends sneak up, eyes shining, ready for the next game. The gopis shake their heads, composing new songs about your tricks, and Yashoda's failed attempts to restrain you. As evening falls, those songs are sung around cooking fires. They tell of a child who steals butter, and yet melts hearts. Of a mother whose rope always falls short. Laughter and singing fill the air, and the scent of roasting grains and melted ghee floats on the breeze. In some of the songs, imaginations leap further. They hint at a time when the same child will not just shift pots, but lift mountains. The women smile at the exaggeration, their voices blending with the crickets and the soft lowing of cows. These playful tales and hints lead the villagers' thoughts toward the upcoming festival of Indra and a hill that will soon become a shelter. Harvest time arrives, and with it, preparations for the annual offering to Indra, Lord of the Rains. In Gokul, men gather bundles of freshly harvested grains and arrange them in neat stacks. Women sprinkle cow dung water to purify the ground and decorate courtyards with bright rangoli patterns. A large altar is erected beneath a neem tree, piled high with baskets of fruits, sweets and butter. The priests chant hymns, their voices rising and falling like the breeze. The air smells of roasted grain, ghee lamps, and incense. Cows are washed, their horns painted, and they are draped with garlands. The whole village buzzes with anticipation, believing their offerings will ensure Indra's continued favor. You watch quietly, noting the fervor and the fear behind it. You see the villagers' bowed heads, the way their hands tremble as they offer gifts. You know that while Indra controls rainfall, the people's livelihoods are more intimately tied to the earth itself, Govardhan Hill, the cows, and their own labor. One evening, as the final decorations are being hung, you gather the elders and speak gently. You remind them that it is Govardhan Hill that gives them grass for their cattle, water that flows from its springs, and fertile soil. It is the cows that provide milk, butter, and dung that fertilizes crops. Let us thank those who truly sustain us, you say. At first, the elders are hesitant, fearing Indra's wrath. But your words resonate. They look toward the towering hill, cloaked in green, and see its quiet generosity. Slowly, heads nod. The decision spreads like ripples across the surface of the Yamuna. This year, the offering will be made to Govardhan. The next morning, instead of an altar for Indra, a procession winds around Govardhan Hill. Villagers carry pots of milk and butter, plates of fragrant rice, and bowls of curd. They sing as they walk, offering flowers at the hill's base, circling its curves in reverence. You lead them, your flute tucked into your waistband, your bare feet touching the earth. The hill seems to hum with contentment. Beneath the trees, squirrels and birds pause to watch. From high above, Indra sees the smoke of cooking fires and hears none of the hymns meant for him. His pride flares into anger. He sends dark clouds to gather over Gokul, and the wind picks up with a wild hiss. Within hours, the skies darken. The first drops fall, cold against the heat of celebration. People pull their scarves tighter and quicken their steps. The rain becomes a deluge, sheets of water slamming down with relentless force. The sting of the drops turns skin cold, clothes cling heavy. The rumble of thunder shakes the earth. Indra's wrath pours down from the sky. Rivers overflow, and muddy torrents rush through streets. Cows bellow in fear, children cry, and adults shout to be heard over the roaring water. The villagers turn their faces upward, rain streaking down their cheeks, eyes searching desperately for help. Without a word, you walk to Govardhan Hill. Rain pelts your hair and shoulders, and the wind whips your garment against your legs. You place your palm against the hill's side and close your eyes. The earth feels solid, reassuring. Then, with the ease of lifting a flower petal, you raise your hand, and the hill lifts with it. Gasps rise even above the storm's roar. The massive hill tilts and moves, settling onto your little finger, balancing effortlessly. Its rough underside rests lightly in your palm. You beckon the villagers, and they rush toward the shelter. They gather under the hill, cows and calves crowding together, families huddling with pots and children. Water rushes around them but cannot touch them. They can hear the rain hammering above like fists on a roof, but inside the shelter the air is calm. Day turns to night. The rain doesn't let up. Under the hill, torches flicker and cast warm light on damp faces. People share food, passing bowls from hand to hand. Stories and songs flow, comforting those who are anxious. Mothers hum to soothe crying babies. Men recount tales of your earlier exploits. Someone begins to sing a new song about a young boy who became a mountain's pillar. The community grows closer in this protected space, differences dissolving in shared experience. Children play in the dry sand, their shadows dancing on the hill's curved walls. Yashoda sits nearby, tears of relief mingling with pride as she watches you steady the massive weight with the same hand that once plucked butter from her pots. Indra watches the scene unfold and realizes his mistake. 7 days pass like this, the rain relentless outside and the mood within transforming from fear to celebration. On the 7th day, Indra relents. He orders the clouds to stop. The deluge tapers off. Drops become a drizzle, then a mist. The sun's rays pierce through breaks in the clouds, illuminating the underside of the hill. You gently lower Govardhan back to its place, and the earth welcomes it without a tremor. The villagers step out, blinking in the sudden brightness. The air smells clean, washed. Puddles reflect the sky, and a rainbow arcs across the firmament, stretching from one horizon to the other. Its colors are vivid, each band perfectly defined, as if painted by divine hand. Children squeal and point, tracing its path. The rainbow seems to touch the very hill they just sheltered under, and to lead toward the forest, hinting at a different kind of joy and celebration to come. Indra descends, humbled. He bows to you, his crown glistening with water droplets, apologizing for his arrogance. You accept his apology with grace, asking him to remember that power should be tempered with humility. The villagers return to their homes, feeling stronger and more united. They tell the story of the mountain and the storm around evening fires, voices full of awe. As they sing and dance in gratitude, the rainbow's brilliance gradually fades, replaced by the glow of a full moon rising over the forest. Its pale light spills across the fields, inviting all to step into a new celebration of love and music. The villagers' feet already tap to an unheard rhythm, and whispers of a celestial dance begin to float through the air, leading into the next chapter of your life, where flute notes and moonbeams will weave together. After the storm has passed and rainbows have faded, a gentle anticipation fills the air of Gokul. The villagers whisper of nights when the moon is so full and bright that it turns the dark into a silver dream. Such a night arrives. The sky is clear. Stars sprinkle like scattered jasmine petals, and the moon floats above the treetops, perfectly round and glowing. A soft breeze rustles the leaves of the kadamba trees, carrying a fragrance of night-blooming flowers and damp earth. You stand in the clearing near the edge of the forest, your flute at your lips. The first note you play is soft, tentative, like the calling of a bird. It floats out into the night and lingers, wrapping around trees and gliding over the surface of the Yamuna. Then you play another, then another, weaving a melody that has never been heard before. The notes flow, rising and falling in a rhythm that echoes the beating of hearts. They are at once playful and yearning, joyous and haunting. In houses across the village, women pause. Hands that had been stirring pots or braiding hair hover in midair. Feet that had been stepping through chores freeze. The music calls like a whispered name. One by one, the gopis slip away from their homes. They leave griddles unattended, bangles half-fastened, sari ends untucked. Each moves quietly through the courtyard, past sleeping infants and dozing elders, drawn into the night. Their anklets jingle softly with each step, creating a counter-melody. They make their way through fields and groves to the source of the song. By the time they reach the clearing, dozens of gopis have gathered, their faces alight with the same wonder. They see you standing there, flute in hand, moonlight casting your form in a soft glow. You greet them with a smile, and the music begins anew. This time, the melody invites movement. Gopis link hands and begin to dance. Saris swirl in arcs of vibrant color, crimson, peacock blue, deep emerald, spinning like blossoms caught in a gentle breeze. Anklets chime in rhythmic patterns, ringing clear and bright. Bangles sparkle as arms move gracefully. The moonlight reflects off the jewels in their hair, creating halos around them. Dust rises in small clouds under their bare feet, softening the ground. The scent of their perfumes, jasmine, rose, sandalwood, mixes with the cool night air. Time seems to slow, then expand. Minutes stretch into hours, but no one is aware. The circle widens and contracts, bodies spinning and pausing, hands lifting and releasing. Your flute's notes thread through the dance, guiding each turn and step. Occasionally, you vanish from one part of the circle and reappear in another, so that every gopi feels you near her. Laughter and sighs mingle with the music, as hearts overflow. Radha is there among them. When her eyes meet yours, something unspoken passes between you. In her gaze is devotion as deep as the Yamuna, and longing as infinite as the night sky. Your music shifts subtly when she draws near. It grows more tender, more intense. Each note you play seems to be meant just for her. The others sense the change and smile knowingly. The connection between you and Radha adds a depth to the dance, a layer of emotion that transcends the playful. It is the sweet ache of love, the fullness and the emptiness that exist side by side. You and Radha move together, not needing words. The circle expands to include more than just physical bodies. It becomes a wheel of love, turning across time and space. For those who witness, it is as if the entire universe is dancing, each star and planet moving in harmony to the melody. As the night wears on, the music takes on a quieter tone. The spinning slows. The anklets jingling softens. The gopis sway gently now, their movements resembling the back and forth of reeds in a river's current. The moon begins its slow descent toward the horizon, and a faint blush of pink touches the eastern sky. Birds stir in their nests, and the sound of their wings adds a whisper to the fading melody. You lower your flute and let the last note linger in the air. The gopis stand still, breathing softly, eyes closed, hearts full. There is a silence, then, that is not empty, but rich with shared experience. You speak gently, promising that this was not the last such gathering. There will be more dances, more songs. Yet a shadow of change touches your words. You hint at a time soon, when your path will lead elsewhere, to Mathura, where destiny awaits. The gopis' eyes glisten. They understand without fully grasping, sensing that these moments are precious. They press their hands together in silent prayer, thanking you for the gift of this night. The gopis return to their homes as dawn stretches pale fingers over the horizon. They walk through fields still damp with dew, their spirits lifted, their steps light. The forest grows quiet again, save for the calls of waking birds. You remain for a moment longer, flute resting at your side, watching the sky change from indigo to lavender. In the distance, bells begin to ring in the temples of Mathura, and a faint dust cloud marks a path that will soon draw you away. You take one last deep breath of the scented air, pocket your flute, and turn toward the village. Behind you, in the clearing, a few fallen jasmine petals remain from where Radha had danced. Ahead of you, a journey unfolds that will lead to palaces, confrontations, and teachings. The music of the night still echoes in your ears, a reminder of love's timeless dance as you prepare to step into the next phase of your life. The moon that witnessed the Ras Lila has set, and a soft grey light seeps into the world. mist curls up from the Yamuna and drifts over the fields, clinging to the low shrubs and the ankles of those who walk through it. Cocks crow somewhere in the distance, and the first fires of the morning are lit. Gokul wakes slowly, savoring the quiet that follows a night of dancing. But this morning does not remain quiet for long. A chariot approaches, its wheels crunching over the pebbled road. Horses snort, stamping their hooves. The driver is Akrura, noble, gentle and devout, a messenger from Mathura. He bows deeply as he steps down. In his hands, he carries a request couched as a command. King Kamsa summons you and your brother Balarama to Mathura. News travels fast in Gokul. In moments, the courtyard is crowded. Nanda, hair tousled and brow creased, steps forward to speak with Akrura. He tries to maintain calm, but concern clouds his eyes. Yashoda rushes to your side, her hands instinctively gripping your shoulders. She listens as Akrura explains. Kamsa wishes you to witness the annual bow sacrifice and partake in festivities. The words are courteous, but everyone knows Kamsa's true intent: to lure you to Mathura and end your life. Your friends, who spent the previous night dancing beside you, look at the ground, sadness heavy in their gaze. The gopis whisper among themselves, hands covering their mouths, tears brimming already. Radha stands a little apart, her face pale, her fingers knotted together as if she could weave a net to hold you back. You meet each of their eyes in turn, offering reassurance. Do not fear, you say softly. I am going to fulfill my duty. I will return. You touch Yashoda's cheeks, wet with tears, and press your forehead to hers. The warmth of her skin and the scent of her hair, of milk and sandalwood, linger in your senses. She whispers blessings in your ear, her voice breaking. Your heart feels a tug. Love and duty pull in different directions. You embrace Nanda, who pats your back awkwardly, trying to hide his own sadness. With Balarama at your side, broad-shouldered and steady, you turn to your friends. They crowd around, hugging you, pressing hands to your arms, whispering prayers. You see tears glistening like dew on the gopis' eyelashes. The mist thickens briefly, as if nature too weeps. Akrura gestures toward his chariot. It is simple, polished wood, with bright brass fittings, drawn by 2 strong horses. You climb aboard with Balarama, and sit on cushioned seats that smell faintly of leather and hay. Akrura takes the reins. As the chariot pulls away, wheels rolling through the damp earth, the villagers run alongside for a distance. Yashoda walks as far as she can, her hands reaching out until she cannot go further. You wave, your hand raised until she fades into the mist. The gopis stand in a cluster, their colorful saris blending into a single blur of hues. Their anklets do not jingle. Instead, silence follows you out of Gokul, save for occasional sniffles and the creak of the chariot wheels. The road to Mathura opens before you like a line drawn through the landscape. You pass fields of waving sugarcane, then groves of mango and neem. The scent of crushed grass rises from beneath the horses' hooves. The morning mist lifts gradually as the sun climbs higher. Along the way, you see simple villages become more crowded, stalls selling earthenware and cloth lining the road. Merchants call out prices, children chase each other between animal carts laden with produce, and travelers step aside for the swift chariot. Balarama points out landmarks, an old banyan tree, a temple dedicated to Shiva. Akrura tells stories of the city to come, its bustling markets, grand gates, and the looming palace of Kamsa. His voice is reverent when he speaks of Mathura's ancient temples and lively bazaars, but it tightens when he mentions the king. As you near the city, the earth beneath the chariot wheels becomes harder, packed from many travelers. You pass caravans bearing spices and silk, oxen pulling carts of grain. The smell of roasting chickpeas and boiling sugar grows stronger. Mathura's outer streets are lined with houses higher than any in Gokul, their balconies draped with fabrics. The noise swells, voices, animal sounds, vendors hawking their wares, bells ringing at shrines. You see beggars and priests, soldiers and merchants, all moving in a colorful tide. Above the rooftops, the palace's towers pierce the sky. Its stone walls gleam pale gold in the sun. Flags bearing Kamsa's emblem flutter from its highest points. Guards in armor stand at attention by the gates, spears shining, eyes alert. The chariot slows as you approach the city gates. They are massive, made of thick wood bound with iron, carved with intricate motifs of lotus flowers and animals. Villagers and pilgrims queue to enter, but the gatekeepers recognize Akrura and wave him through. The gates creak open slowly, revealing the wide avenue beyond. A hush seems to fall over you, not because the city is quiet, far from it, but because you are crossing a threshold. Behind you lie fields, forests, gopis' songs, and the warmth of Yashoda's kitchen. Ahead lies marble and stone, intrigue and danger. The sun gleams on the palace walls, casting long shadows that stretch toward you. You feel the weight of destiny settling gently on your shoulders, the same way Govardhan rested on your finger. Balarama's presence beside you is solid and reassuring. Akrura murmurs a prayer under his breath. As the gates close behind you, you inhale deeply, breathing in the new scents. Incense, human sweat, cooked foods, and something metallic. There is tension in the air, like the moments before a storm. You sense that the dance of divine play is giving way to a test of strength and courage. The path winds toward the palace, where Kamsa waits, and as the chariot rolls forward, you prepare yourself to face him, knowing the first confrontation is imminent. The chariot passes through the gates of Mathura, and your senses are immediately assaulted by the clamor and scale of the city. Narrow lanes give way to wide avenues lined with stalls. Merchants shout over one another, hawking spices and silks. The smell of roasting meats mixes with incense from nearby shrines. Above it all rises Kamsa's palace, its walls high and uninviting, flags snapping in the wind. Soldiers patrol everywhere, their armor clanking. As you journey farther into the city, crowds gather along the roadside. Word of your arrival has spread. People whisper behind their hands, eyes following you. Some faces show curiosity, others fear or hope. Children perched on rooftops crane their necks for a better view. Your destination is the arena near the palace courtyard, but before you reach it, another test awaits. At the entrance, tethered to a post too small for its size, stands Kuvalayapida, Kamsa's prized elephant. The beast is enormous, its legs like tree trunks, its skin dark and wrinkled. The air around it is thick with the smell of musk and sweat. It swings its massive head from side to side, ears flapping, trunk lifting and slamming down, tossing dust into the air. Chains jingle and scrape as it moves. Its mahout sits high on its neck, struggling to control it. Kamsa has ordered the mahout to release the elephant to trample you as soon as you approach. You and Balarama walk forward, unarmed and unafraid. The elephant turns toward you, eyes flashing white, and trumpets, a deafening blast that vibrates in your chest. Hot breath blasts your face like a furnace, carrying the scent of fermented fruit and cut grass. For a moment, the city hushes. Even the merchants stop shouting. Kuvalayapida charges. Its huge feet pound the ground, sending tremors through the earth. With a quick sidestep, you let it rush past. Dust rises as its feet skid. You slap its flank gently with your palm. The elephant stumbles, puzzled. It charges again. This time, you run straight at it. Just as the trunk reaches for you, you slip under and grab it. With a twist and a tug, you flip the massive animal onto its side. It crashes down, the ground shuddering. The crowd gasps. Balarama seizes the opportunity to tie its legs together with a rope, rendering it immobile. You stroke its head, calming it. Kuvalayapida's breath slows. Its eyes close. It is no longer a threat. You step away, leaving the beast alive, but humbled. The people watching erupt into cheers. Even those sent to oppose you cannot help but marvel. The path to the arena is now clear. Tall gates open to reveal a large oval space filled with packed sand. Stone tiers rise around it, already crowded with spectators. The air is heavy with the scent of packed bodies, sweat, and the oil used by wrestlers to glisten their skin. Vendors weave through the stands, selling peanuts and sweets. Musicians with drums sit to one side, ready to beat out rhythms for the matches. On a raised platform sits Kamsa, wrapped in fine cloth, his crown glinting. His eyes never leave you. His fingers grip the arms of his throne so tightly that the knuckles whiten. Around him stand guards, spears upright. Beside the platform, the two wrestlers wait, Chanura and Mushtika. They are hulking men, muscles bulging, torsos bare except for the strings of beads across their chests. Their faces are smeared with sandal paste. They look like statues carved from granite. You and Balarama step into the arena. The crowd murmurs, some in support, others in doubt. The wrestlers flex and stomp, sending little puffs of sand into the air. They snarl, calling you boys and mocking your youth. The drummers beat a steady rhythm, deep and resonant, echoing like a heartbeat. The fight begins. Chanura lunges at you, his massive arm swinging. You dodge easily and tap him on the shoulder, smiling. He growls and swings again with more force. Each time you weave aside, landing soft taps that make him stumble. It becomes clear to everyone that strength alone is not enough to catch you. Balarama faces Mushtika. They lock arms, muscles straining. You hear the creak of flesh against flesh, the grunt of effort. Balarama's feet dig into the sand. Then he lifts Mushtika off the ground and tosses him to the side, the wrestler landing with a heavy thud. Cheers erupt. Chanura, furious now, charges full force. You leap gracefully over him, place your foot on his back, and push him to the ground. He stays down, gasping for breath. The crowd goes wild. The tension that had filled the arena turns to exhilaration. Drums pound faster, and people clap and shout your names. Mothers hold up children so they can see. Men pound on the stone tiers. Kamsa's face pales. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the cool breeze. He grips his throne more tightly, nails digging into wood. His eyes dart, first to you, then to his guards, then to the exit. The courtiers near him whisper nervously. The man who once laughed at the prophecy now begins to tremble. You look up at him briefly. Your gaze meets his, and he flinches as if struck. In that moment, the air seems to thicken. Everyone senses a shift. The time for games is over. Destiny, long foretold, is walking ever closer. The wrestlers lie defeated. The elephant is subdued. Only the tyrant remains between you and the end of his rule. As the crowd roars and Kamsa's fear grows, the next steps unfold in your mind. The arena vibrates with the energy of your victory over Chanura and Mushtika. Dust hangs in the air, mixing with the scent of sweat and oil. Spectators are still on their feet, their cheers rolling like waves through the tiered stone stands. The drummers' hands hover over their instruments, waiting for the next cue. Above it all, Kamsa sits rigid, his eyes wide, chest heaving. He tries to maintain his regal composure, but his fists clench white around the carved arms of his throne. The prophecy he thought he could outrun has arrived in front of him, sweat dampened and calm. You stand in the center of the arena, Balarama beside you. A hush falls. as if everyone senses what will happen next. You look up at the platform where Kamsa sits. For a heartbeat, the world seems to narrow until it's just the two of you. You see him as the frightened boy he once was, when he heard the oracle's words. You see him as the tyrant who killed and oppressed in an attempt to escape that fate. Pity and purpose flow together. Without looking away, you take a step forward, then another. Each footfall echoes in the silent arena. The crowd holds its breath. Kamsa's eyes dart to his guards, but none move. They are frozen, mesmerized by the unfolding scene. You break into a run. The sand under your feet shifts, but cannot slow you. You leap, clearing the distance between the arena floor and the platform in a single bound. For a moment, you are airborne, arms outstretched, hair flowing behind you. You land right in front of Kamsa. He tries to stand, but you reach him first. With both hands, you grab the front of his robes. He lets out a strangled cry, more like a gasp of disbelief. You yank him forward with a speed and force that leaves him no time to struggle. His crown, heavy with jewels and gold, slips from his head. It tumbles down the steps of the dais, clattering onto the stone of the arena floor. The sound is sharp and resonant, like a ceremonial bell dropped on marble, echoing through the hushed space. It calls to mind another crown centuries later, Victoria's, heavy and symbolic, except this one is falling away, its power evaporating. You drag Kamsa across the platform and down the stairs. The crowd gasps. Dust puffs around his feet as they skid along the stone. You pull him into the arena, in front of everyone he has ruled. Fear distorts his features. Sweat glistens on his upper lip. He calls out incoherently, half pleading, half denying. You lift him off his feet effortlessly and throw him to the ground. His body lands heavily, the thud absorbed by the sand. You place your foot on his chest, looking down at him. There is no cruelty in your face, only resolve. You press down. His breathing stops. His heart, fueled for years by fear and anger, slows under the weight of your heel. When it ceases entirely, his limbs go slack. In that moment, the prophecy is fulfilled. The tyrant lies defeated by the very child he sought to kill. For a heartbeat, there is silence so complete, you can hear the rustling of the flags above. Then an eruption of sound, cheers, cries, the beating of drums. The people of Mathura pour their emotions into the air. Some shout with joy, others weep with relief. A few stand stunned, not yet understanding the shift that has occurred. Women throw flowers into the arena. Men lift their children onto their shoulders to witness the moment. You step away from Kamsa's body. Guards drop their spears, relief washing over their faces. Servants bow, courtiers whisper. There is a palpable sense of release, like a tight string suddenly cut. Yet along with freedom comes uncertainty. Who will lead them? What will the new order be? The cheers carry both excitement and questions. In the palace's depths, word of Kamsa's death travels quickly. Jailers unlock doors without knowing why, feeling compelled by a force larger than their orders. In a dim cell, Devaki and Vasudeva, who have spent years chained and mourning the loss of their children, hear the sound of keys turning. Light spills into their cell. A guard appears, breathless, telling them the king is dead. Before they can fully comprehend, the door swings open. They step out tentatively, blinking in the brightness of the corridor, the air smelling of stone and dampness. Their chains are removed. Their hearts pound, half in disbelief, half in hope. You meet them in the passage outside the arena. They stop short, their eyes widening. Devaki covers her mouth with her hand, tears spilling over her fingers. Vasudeva's shoulders shake. For a moment, no one speaks. Then Devaki runs to you, arms outstretched. She embraces you tightly, pressing her cheek to the top of your head. her tears wetting your hair. Vasudeva wraps his arms around you both, encircling his family at last. They weep openly, tears of grief for the children they lost, tears of joy for the child who survived and delivered them, tears of release from years of fear. You stand still, feeling their sobs, feeling the weight that lifts from them. Balarama places a hand on Vasudeva's shoulder. For a moment, the world shrinks to the warmth of this reunion. When they pull back, their faces are wet but smiling. Devaki touches your face as if to confirm you are real. Vasudeva bows to you, not as a subject to a king, but as a father to a child who has become something more. They take your hands, grateful for freedom they had nearly given up hoping for. Outside, the noise of celebration continues. Inside, the palace begins to change. Guards switch allegiance. Courtiers scramble to align with the new reality. The citizens of Mathura rejoice in the streets, but also glance at each other nervously, wondering what comes next. You reassure Devaki and Vasudeva that their suffering is over. There are tasks ahead: restoring the kingdom to its rightful ruler, purifying the city, rebuilding. But for now, there is a moment of quiet joy. You hold your parents' hands as you guide them into the light of day. From here, your journey will lead you away from Mathura for a time. There are duties to fulfill and knowledge to acquire. Sage Sandipani's ashram awaits, a place of learning where you will study the Vedas, refine your understanding of Dharma, and hone your skills. As you leave the arena, steps soft on the stone, you can almost hear the rustle of scriptures and smell the smoke of sacrificial fires in a distant hermitage. The chapter of prophecy fulfilled closes, and the chapter of growth and education begins to unfurl. The echo of Kamsa's crown hitting stone still lingers in your mind as you sit beside Devaki and Vasudeva in a quiet chamber of Mathura's palace. Outside, celebrations continue. The city, freed from tyranny, hums with life and anxious anticipation. Inside, your parents' voices weave a different rhythm, one of sorrow, endurance, and love. The chamber is lit by oil lamps, whose steady flames cast a warm glow on the stone walls. Pillows and mats soften the floor. Devaki begins to speak, her hands folded in her lap. She tells of the day she and Vasudeva were taken prisoner, of Kamsa's twisted laughter as he killed her first 6 newborn sons. Her voice is soft but firm, like rain on parched earth. Tears glisten on her cheeks, yet she does not turn away. Vasudeva adds his memories, of chains that cut into his skin, of carrying you across a raging river in the dead of night, of the sound of the prison door closing behind him each time he returned empty-armed. As they speak, their faces reflect both the pain of their past and the relief of their present. You listen without interruption. Your gaze stays on them, your expression calm. Occasionally, you reach out to take a hand or wipe a tear, grounding them in the reality that those days are over. The palace corridors, once echoing with the footsteps of guards and the whispers of conspiracies, feel different now. Sunlight streams through open windows. Fresh flowers adorn doorways. Servants move about with lighter steps. The tension that had permeated the stone has been replaced by warmth, not only from the sun, but from the presence of family and the promise of a better future. Laughter floats up from courtyards where children play. The fear that once made every shadow a potential threat dissipates. Not all is joy, however. The city must be rebuilt, both physically and morally. Kamsa's father, Ugrasena, is freed from prison and restored to his throne. A ceremonial gathering takes place in the throne hall. You attend with Devaki and Vasudeva on either side of you. Ugrasena stands before the assembled citizens, hands trembling slightly as he accepts the crown he never sought, but now must wear again. Priests chant hymns, sprinkling holy water, and place garlands of marigold around his neck. He thanks you publicly, his voice wavering with gratitude. His eyes, once clouded with despair, now shine with determination. The people cheer, but there is a note of caution. They are relieved Kamsa is gone, yet they wonder what the future holds. Merchants begin to restock their stalls. Farmers bring grain into the city without fear of confiscation. Broken statues are repaired, and new banners featuring symbols of peace and prosperity replace Kamsa's insignia. You move through these transformations with humility. Rather than basking in adoration, you spend time listening to those who approach you with grievances and hopes. You help with decisions about rebuilding markets and distributing food. You ensure that the widows of those Kamsa killed receive aid. At night, in the privacy of your parents' quarters, Devaki sings old lullabies she never thought she would share with you. Her voice echoes gently off the stone, wrapping you in a sense of home that transcends walls. Vasudeva shows you items he had hidden away: a carved wooden toy meant for a baby, a shawl embroidered by Devaki during long days in prison. These simple objects hold the weight of years of longing. Despite the newfound comfort, you understand that your journey cannot end in Mathura. There is more to learn and to become. You speak with Devaki and Vasudeva about your desire to study under sage Sandipani, a revered teacher whose hermitage sits far away in the forested region of Avanti. They look at you, their gazes mixed with pride and reluctance. Devaki places a hand over your heart. You have always been destined for great things, she says. Go, learn, grow. We will be here when you return. Vasudeva nods, his jaw set, acknowledging both the necessity and the difficulty of letting you go again. They prepare a small bundle for you: simple garments, dried fruits, and a piece of cloth Yashoda once used to wrap you. The day of departure arrives quietly. The palace's marble floors feel cool under your bare feet as you walk toward the main gate. Each step on the polished stone resonates softly. Devaki and Vasudeva accompany you to the edge of the courtyard. They embrace you one last time, lingering. Devaki smooths your hair, her fingers memorizing its texture. Vasudeva squeezes your shoulders. You touch their feet in respect, then rise and turn toward the open road. Outside the gate, the city's whitewashed walls give way to dusty paths lined with neem and banyan trees. The air smells of earth and distant rain. Balarama is by your side, carrying his own bundle. Akrura, who will travel with you for part of the journey, offers a nod of encouragement. You step down from the last marble stair and onto the packed dirt of the forest path. The stones of the palace behind you glint in the morning light. Ahead lies a canopy of green, dappled sunlight, and the promise of new knowledge. The cacophony of the city fades with each step, replaced by the rustle of leaves, the buzz of cicadas, and the distant call of birds. There is a calm that settles on you, a readiness to absorb all that sage Sandipani has to teach. With a final glance back to see your parents waving from the palace gate, you set your feet firmly on the path, feeling the slight give of the earth beneath you. The journey toward mastery of scripture and weaponry, and deeper understanding of your own nature, begins here, amid the tall trees and the songs of unseen birds. The forest path winds deeper into a landscape of towering sal and banyan trees, their roots spreading like fingers across the earth. Birds call from high branches, and the smell of damp leaves and wildflowers mingles with the faint sweetness of distant mango groves. As you and Balarama travel, the din of Mathura fades entirely, replaced by cicada's steady hum and the soft rustle of wind through leaves. After days on the trail, a clearing appears, a cluster of simple huts arranged around a large ancient tree. This is Sandipani's ashram. Smoke curls from a single kitchen hut, and the rhythmic chant of students reciting verses floats through the air. The atmosphere feels both lively and serene, as if each sound and movement is part of a larger harmony. Life here is simple and disciplined. You rise before dawn, the sky still dark, to the resonant tones of the conch. Students gather in the courtyard to chant Sanskrit verses, their voices blending into one. The smell of damp earth mixes with the scent of sandalwood incense and the first batch of roti baking on the outdoor stove. After chanting, everyone sits cross-legged on thin, creaking wooden mats, facing a thatched pavilion where sage Sandipani teaches. His presence is both gentle and commanding. He speaks clearly, his words weaving together philosophy, ethics, and stories. He treats each student equally, whether prince or farmer's son. There are no special privileges here. When he explains metaphysical concepts, you listen with deep interest. When he assigns chores, you carry water from the river or gather firewood without hesitation. You learn the Vedas and Upanishads, committing verses to memory, savoring their rhythms and meanings. You discuss duty, dharma, righteous action, and the impermanent nature of life. You practice writing on palm leaves, the stylus scraping gently. Physical training balances the intellectual. You learn archery, swordplay, wrestling, and the art of using the mace. Under the watchful eyes of senior students, you run drills in the open field, feeling muscles stretch and lungs expand. The creak of wooden bows, the twang of bowstrings, the crunch of feet on grass become familiar sounds. During breaks, you eat simple meals. Fresh roti, boiled rice, lentils, seated in rows on the ground. The food is unseasoned but nourishing, its taste enhanced by hunger and gratitude. When chores are assigned, you and Balarama sweep floors, clean dishes, and tend the small garden just like everyone else. The egalitarian environment fosters humility. Despite your divine origin and royal background, you delight in being treated as a student among peers. Your respect for Sandipani deepens daily. He notices each student's strengths and weaknesses, offering encouragement and correction with equal patience. One day, after months of study, he comes to you with a personal request. His son, a devoted student, had gone to bathe in the ocean and was swept away by currents. Sandipani has long believed that his son was taken by the sea god Varuna. Tears glisten in his wise eyes as he confesses this lingering sorrow. He believes you might help. Without hesitation, you and Balarama agree. Gratitude for your teacher's guidance and a sense of reciprocity propel you forward. The journey to the western shore is long, but filled with purpose. As you approach the ocean, you hear its roar before you see it. Waves crash against rocks, sending up fine mist that tastes of salt. The air smells of seaweed and sun-baked sand. You approach the water's edge. Varuna's domain is vast and powerful. The pull of the tides tugs at your ankles. You wade in, feeling the cold embrace of the ocean envelop you. The weight of water presses on your chest as you dive, yet you move with ease, as if the currents themselves guide you. In the depths, light filters down in green shafts. Strange fish dart past, and plants sway like dancers. A gleaming palace appears ahead, wrought of coral and pearls. Varuna greets you with the dignity of a god and the warmth of a host. He listens to your request, his eyes deep as the sea. He acknowledges your mission and leads you to a golden chamber where Sandipani's son sits, unharmed but longing for home. Gratitude shines in the boy's eyes as you lead him back through the water. The journey upward feels lighter with each stroke. Breaking the surface, you inhale a deep breath of air, scented with salt and sunlight. The ocean lets go reluctantly, as if reluctant to return its guest. You and Balarama guide the boy back to the ashram, where Sandipani waits anxiously. When he sees his son, tears stream down his face. He embraces him, and then he embraces you. The emotion in that moment is profound. Sandipani's voice trembles as he thanks you, not as a teacher to students, but as a father to those who have brought back his child. He blesses you with words of ancient power. This act of returning his son teaches the entire ashram the depth of reciprocity. Knowledge must be repaid, not just with gratitude, but with action. Your time at the ashram draws to a close. Having mastered scriptures and skills, and having learned humility and service, you prepare to return to Mathura. The morning of your departure is misty. You pack your simple belongings, spare robes, your stylus, a few palm leaves, with care. Sandipani gives you final instructions and a warm embrace. Your fellow students gather to bid farewell, offering hugs and small gifts like wildflower garlands and hand-carved wooden flutes. The ashram's routines continue behind you. Chants, the creak of mats, the smell of roti and sandalwood, as you step once more onto the forest path. This time, your feet feel more grounded. The knowledge gained has deepened your sense of purpose. When you reach Mathura again, it is both familiar and changed. The streets are more orderly, the market stalls bustling, yet whispers circulate of new threats. Allies of Kamsa, like Jarasandha of Magadha, are angered by his death and plan attacks. There is talk of a fierce warrior named Kalayavana approaching. You sense the unease in the citizens. Nanda and others from Gokul come to advise. With these looming dangers, you realize Mathura's walls may not withstand repeated sieges. You and Balarama begin to conceive of a new solution. A fortified city built on an island far to the west, surrounded by the sea. A place safe from land-based armies, where your people can live without fear. The idea is audacious, but necessity drives it. As you stand on Mathura's ramparts, looking west where the sky meets the horizon, the decision settles in you like a seed. The path from ashram to palace has prepared you for action. The next chapter of your journey will involve architects and kings, sea walls and ships, and a city of your own making, Dwarka, rising from the waves as a refuge for your people. The decision to build a safe city weighs on your mind even as you resume duties in Mathura. Jarasandha, king of Magadha and Kamsa's ally, has attacked repeatedly, each siege leaving scars on the walls and hearts of the people. Although you and Balarama repel him every time, you know, Mathura cannot withstand endless assaults. News arrives that Jarasandha is forming yet another alliance, his armies gathering for a more devastating attack. In council with elders and friends, you propose relocating the Yadava clan. Eyes widen at the audacity of abandoning ancient roots, but the weight of necessity presses on everyone. You outline your vision, a city built on an island near the western shore, protected by the sea, impossible for armies to reach easily. Under your guidance, preparations begin. Messages are sent to coastal tribes to find a suitable location. Architects and masons, including the divine craftsman Vishvakarma, are summoned. They travel west, following your instructions, to a stretch of coastline where the land slopes gently into the Arabian Sea. The day you arrive, the sun is a disk of molten gold sinking into the horizon. The air smells of salt and seaweed. Waves lap rhythmically at the shore, their white foam tracing lines on the sand. The sky is vast and open, gulls crying overhead. You walk along the beach with Balarama and the architects, pointing toward a rocky outcropping just offshore. That is where you will build Dwarka. Construction commences at dawn. Men carry timber and stone onto their boats that shuttle back and forth. Masons lay foundations on the rock, their hammers ringing. The scent of fresh cut wood mingles with salty air. Fishers in nearby villages watch in amazement as walls rise from the sea. Each day, you oversee the work. You help measure angles and plan the city's layout. Wide streets oriented to catch sea breezes. Residential quarters separated from markets. Temples and assembly halls placed at the center. You imagine a bustling harbor with docks for ships, a palace facing the ocean, and fortifications strong enough to deter Yarasanda's forces. The sound of saws and hammers becomes a symphony of creation. In the evening, when work pauses, you sit on the newly built docks, feet dangling over the water, feeling the cooling breeze and smelling the resin from fresh timber. In your heart, you know the city will be both a refuge and a testament to your people's resilience. While construction is underway, a different matter draws your attention eastward. Far away in Vidarbha, Princess Rukmini sits in her palace, despondent. Her brother Rukmi has arranged her marriage to Shishupala, a cruel prince she does not love. Rukmini has heard of you, your kindness, bravery, and wisdom. She has fallen in love with your virtues through stories and prayer. Desperate, she writes a letter to you, professing her devotion and begging rescue. She entrusts the letter to a trusted Brahmin who travels to Dwarka and presents it to you. When you read her words, you feel the sincerity and urgency of her plea. She plans to go to the temple of Parvati before the wedding, she writes. If you wish to make her your wife, you must come then. Otherwise, she will remain unmarried forever. You cannot ignore such a call. You tell Balarama and gather a few loyal warriors. The journey from Dwarka to Vidarbha is long, but your chariot cuts swiftly across plains and through forests. The wind whips through your hair, salt giving way to dust as you cross inland. Birds scatter before the chariot's rumble. The sun rises behind you, bathing the road in golden light. You arrive outside Vidarbha's city walls just before dawn. The eastern sky glows pink, and a cool breeze carries the scent of temple flowers. You hide your chariot among trees and wait. From your hiding place, you watch as Rukmini, radiant in her simplicity, walks to the temple, surrounded by maids. Her eyes are calm, but her hands tremble slightly. She prostrates before the goddess and prays for strength and union. The moment she finishes, you drive the chariot from cover. The horses snort and stamp as they gallop up. Dust swirls. Rukmini sees you and her face lights up, relief washing over her. You lean down, extend your arm, and lift her onto the chariot. She moves gracefully, slipping beside you. The maids gasp, then scatter. The temple bells ring, signaling the abduction. Guards rush forward shouting orders. Behind you, Rukmi realizes what is happening and sends his soldiers to pursue you. Shishupala's men join them, their armor clinking. The chase begins. Your horses fly like arrows shot from a bow. Balarama guards your flank, his mace ready. Arrows whiz past. Some strike the chariot, splintering wood. Your own warriors turn and shoot back, knocking pursuers off their steeds. The sound of pounding hooves and shouted commands fills the morning air. You do not look back until the city walls are a blur. Then you see Rukmi himself, furious and determined, closing in. He swings his sword, aiming for your horses. In a single motion, Balarama steps between and strikes his chariot, shattering its axle. Rukmi tumbles to the ground, dust billowing around him. He scrambles up, but you are already far ahead. By midday, you reach the bank of a river where your reinforcements await. The pursuers hesitate, unwilling to cross into your territory. You and Rukmini descend from the chariot. She bows to your mother-in-law to be Yashoda, who has come to bless her. The fear in her eyes melts away, replaced by gratitude and joy. The marriage takes place with simplicity and grace. A sacred fire burns, its smoke fragrant with herbs. Priests chant mantras. You circle the fire with Rukmini, taking vows of mutual support. Her hand in yours is warm and steady. Drums beat in a joyous rhythm, echoing over water and through newly built streets in Dwarka. Garlands of jasmine adorn your shoulders. The Yadavas celebrate, dancing and singing, relieved to see you find happiness amid the turmoil. Rukmini's gentle presence brings a sense of calm to the bustling construction site that is becoming a home. Even as you smile at her, you know this is only the beginning. Tales from sages have told that your life will include many wives and countless sons, each symbolizing cosmic multiplicity. But for now, in the glow of the fire and the beat of the drum, there is only Rukmini's serene face beside yours, and the salty breeze of the sea carrying your laughter across the newborn city of Dwarka. The sound of waves crashing against the fortified walls of Dwarka becomes the steady drumbeat of daily life. Outside, fishermen haul in nets, sparkling with silver fish. Inside, your life expands in ways even you did not entirely anticipate. Rukmini's arrival brought warmth and grace to the new city, but she was only the first of your principal queens. Others join her over time, each with her own temperament and talents. One loves poetry and can recite entire epics while pausing only to smile at a child. Another is fond of gardening, her fingers always smelling of jasmine and marigold as she coaxes seeds into bloom. A third excels at strategy, leaning over maps with you, her mind sharp and curious. A fourth is known for her culinary skills, teaching palace cooks to infuse simple dishes with flavors that evoke her childhood village. Each one enriches the household, adding threads of color to the tapestry of your home. Between their arrivals, another event shakes the region. The demon Narakasura, tyrant of Pragjyotisha, has captured thousands of women, keeping them imprisoned in his fortress. Their pleas reach you like faint cries carried on the wind. You cannot ignore them. With your army, you storm Narakasura's city. The battle is fierce but decisive. You cut through his defenses and confront the demon, whose eyes burn with arrogance. With a single thrust of your sword, you free the women from his control. They emerge into sunlight, faces pale from long captivity, eyes adjusting to the brightness of a world they thought they would never see again. Grateful and liberated, yet fearing the stigma society might attach to them, they ask to become your wives, trusting that your embrace will restore their dignity. You agree, recognizing that sometimes compassion means taking on responsibilities others would shy away from. Overnight, your household grows exponentially. The palace complex expands, adding courtyards, gardens, and halls to accommodate those who now call Dwarka home. Daily life becomes a dance of presence. At dawn, you sit with one queen on a stone bench overlooking the sea, your fingers intertwined as you watch the rising sun turn the water to gold. The scent of salt and hibiscus blossoms drifts on the breeze. Later, you cross a courtyard where another queen plays with children, their laughter like a chorus of bells. You lift a child onto your shoulders, feeling small hands grip your hair while his gurgles echo across the polished marble. In another wing of the palace, you stop to discuss governance with a different queen who tracks the city's grain storage, ensuring no family goes hungry. Her ledger is neat, her mind sharp. She appreciates your suggestions, but also offers her own, creating a partnership. After midday, you meet foreign envoys in a shaded hall cooled by sea breezes. The floor is cool under your bare feet, the walls hung with tapestries. One queen brings spiced buttermilk for the guests and listens as you negotiate trade agreements and alliances. She leans in later to offer insights that reflect her understanding of other cultures. Evening brings music. Another queen, soft-spoken but with a passion for dance, arranges performances in the central courtyard. Oil lamps flicker, casting circles of light. Musicians pluck strings and beat drums while dancers spin, their anklets ringing. You stand among them, clapping along, then join in, spinning lightly. Joy lights your face, but you can also feel the weight of so many eyes on you. There are days when you feel stretched thin, your presence demanded in different corners of your world at once. Yet in those moments, something within you expands. You find that you can be in multiple places simultaneously, not by being physically separate, but by fully entering each moment. When you sit with one wife, you are entirely hers, When you counsel a minister, you are wholly focused on strategy. When you play with children, you are playful, unburdened by the thought of battles or politics. Your palace, thus, becomes a microcosm of the cosmos, each courtyard a planet, each queen a constellation, each child a star. You navigate this universe with care and attention. Outsiders marvel and whisper about your 8 principal queens, your countless children, and the 16,000 women who became your wives. Some cannot fathom such multiplicity. Others see in it a metaphor for the divine's ability to be present everywhere at once. For you, it is simply life, complex, busy, rich with relationships and responsibilities. Between these personal duties, your role as a statesman continues. You correspond with kings, negotiate with merchants, and maintain alliances. Among these, one alliance grows especially dear: your friendship with the Pandavas. Word arrives that the Pandavas have faced humiliation in Hastinapura and will soon be exiled. You remember them from earlier visits and adventures: Arjuna's skill, Yudhishthira's righteousness, Bhima's strength, Nakula and Sahadeva's loyalty, Draupadi's grace. You sense that your destiny and theirs are intertwined. Even as you juggle domestic multiplicities, your mind turns toward their plight. You send messages of support, offering counsel and aid. When Arjuna visits Dwarka seeking your guidance, you set aside palace affairs to sit with him on a terrace overlooking the sea. The two of you discuss dharma, the fickle nature of fortune, and the importance of staying true to one's values amidst chaos. The wind carries away your words, but the bond deepens. In your mind, you see paths converging, your domestic world and the political world pulling together toward a common epic. The multiplicity of your home life is not a distraction from these greater duties. Instead, it prepares you, teaching you to hold many threads at once. As you sit listening to the waves and to Arjuna's resolve, you know the time will come when your guidance and companionship will be crucial on battlefields and in courts. The chapter of many wives and many worlds opens gracefully into the broader arc of alliance and fate. When the Pandava's mother Kunti brings her 5 sons to Hastinapura, the world takes note. The eldest, Yudhishthira, carries himself with quiet dignity. Bhima, second born, has arms like tree trunks and a laugh that fills a room. Arjuna, third, is slim and intense, eyes always watching. Nakula and Sahadeva, twins with matching smiles, complete the 5. Though cousins, you and the Pandavas grow closer than blood. You see in them reflections of loyalty, strength, and righteousness. Your own life, already entwined with the Yadavas, now meshes with their destiny. Your friendship with Arjuna deepens quickly. His dedication to archery and warcraft reminds you of long mornings in Sandipani's ashram. Yet you also appreciate his curiosity and openness. When he visits Dwarka, you walk with him along the sea wall, the wind tugging at your garments, and speak of philosophy, duty, and desire. He listens intently, occasionally glancing at the horizon where the sky meets the water. You teach him aspects of advanced archery techniques, subtle stances, ways to focus breathing. In turn, he shares stories of palace life in Hastinapura, of his brother's quirks, and of his admiration for your ability to be present with everyone yet fully engaged in each moment. Bhima loves food and challenges. He insists on arm wrestling you at least once, though he knows you will win. His laughter shakes the walls. You spar with him anyway, feigning difficulty until he notices your smile and laughs even more. Yudhishthira's unwavering honesty sometimes frustrates the others, but you respect his adherence to dharma. You counsel him softly when his rigidity causes conflict, suggesting that compassion is also a form of truth. Your involvement with the Pandavas begins earnestly when news reaches you of Draupadi's Swayamvara. Kings and princes from across the land flock to Panchala, where King Drupada has set a challenge. an archery test so difficult that only the most skilled can win his daughter's hand. The test requires shooting the eye of a spinning fish mounted high above ground, while watching its reflection in a pool of water. You accompany the Pandavas in disguise as Brahmins. The hall is grand, the floor carpeted with petals, pillars draped in silk. Warriors and monarchs sit in anticipation, their armor gleaming under chandeliers. King Drupada stands near his daughter, who is veiled, her posture both demure and resolute. You and Arjuna sit quietly among the Brahmins, observing the attempts. Prince after prince steps up, strains to draw the heavy bow, fails, and returns humbled. The hall murmurs, and tension builds. When it is Arjuna's turn, he rises, disguised, and bows to the assembly. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. He strides to the bow, his steps measured, hands steady. He lifts the bow effortlessly and strings it. The string sings when he pulls it back. He looks down at the water's surface, where the fish's reflection swims, then up at the spinning fish itself. Your eyes meet his. You nod subtly. He releases. The arrow flies in a graceful arc and pierces the fish's eye. Gasps erupt, followed by applause. Draupadi's veil lifts slightly as she glances at this unknown Brahmin who succeeded where kings failed. She stands, garlands him, and walks away from the Swayamvara with him. You follow, alert for any who might object. Indeed, many kings protest that a Brahmin cannot marry a princess. You step forward, your demeanor calm and firm. You remind them that ability and virtue, not birth, have won this challenge. Humorous asides and gentle wit diffuse rising anger. You and Arjuna, along with the other Pandavas, leave Panchala safely. Only later is Arjuna's true identity revealed. Draupadi becomes wife to all 5 brothers, bound by their mother's misinterpreted blessing and by their own promise to share everything equally. Over time, your counsel to the Pandavas extends beyond archery and strategy. You help them retrieve their kingdom from their cousins, the Kauravas. When Dhritarashtra divides the kingdom unfairly, you offer them land on which to build Indraprastha. When Maya the architect seeks refuge with you after being saved from a forest fire, you direct him to construct a palace for the Pandavas. The palace is so wondrous that it later becomes a cause of envy. You use humor and diplomacy to guide the Pandavas through tricky political maneuvers, echoing the way Lord Melbourne guided young Victoria with patience and wisdom. When you and Arjuna travel to the Himalayan slopes to seek divine weapons, you encourage him to practice austerity and remain humble despite his successes. When Bhima rushes impulsively toward danger, you tease him gently while reminding him of the consequences of uncontrolled anger. Yet, even as you help the Pandavas flourish, dark clouds gather. Duryodhana, eldest of the Kauravas, seethes with jealousy. He cannot stand the Pandavas' growing power and the splendor of Indraprastha. When he visits their palace, Maya's marvel, he becomes disoriented by optical illusion and falls into a pool, to the suppressed laughter of Draupadi. Humiliated, he returns home burning with revenge. His uncle Shakuni suggests a sinister solution: invite Yudhishthira to a game of dice. Yudhishthira, bound by dharma and curious about his chances, accepts the invitation. You hear of this with an uneasy feeling. Dice, unlike archery, rely on luck and manipulation. Shakuni is infamous for his loaded dice and cunning. Despite your warnings, Yudhishthira insists he cannot refuse a royal invitation. The date is set. As the Pandavas prepare to leave for Hastinapura to accept Duryodhana's invitation, the mood in Indraprastha shifts. The laughter that filled halls becomes hushed. Draupadi looks toward you with questions in her eyes. Bhima mutters darkly about deceit. Arjuna sharpens his arrows compulsively, not trusting his hands to be idle. Yudhishthira prays longer than usual, seeking guidance. You stand with them, pressing their hands in farewell, your heart heavy. You sense that the dice game is a turning point, that no matter how carefully one plays, it will unleash forces that cannot be recalled. As they ride away, you whisper a prayer to steady them. You watch until the dust raised by their chariot settles. The sun sets, painting the sky in streaks of crimson and gold, reflecting both the glorious and perilous paths ahead. In Hastinapura's grand assembly hall, the atmosphere feels thick with expectation. Oil lamps burn steadily along the pillars, casting a golden hue across polished stone. At the center, a raised platform holds a board and dice. Around it sit the princes and elders of the Kuru dynasty. Shakuni, uncle of Duryodhana, handles the dice with practiced ease. His eyes are sly, his hands quick. Yudhishthira sits opposite him, his face calm, but shoulders tense. He has always adhered to dharma and the obligations of kinship. Refusing the invitation would be seen as disrespectful, yet he suspects deceit. You are not present in the hall. You have chosen to honor the laws of free will, knowing that your intervention must not undermine the Pandavas' agency. Instead, you remain in Dwarka, praying for their discernment and strength. The game begins with harmless wagers, precious metals and gemstones. Shakuni throws the dice, their clatter sharp and ominous against the hushed murmurs of courtiers. Each roll seems guided by unseen forces. Yudhishthira wins a few hands, his eyes narrowing when the dice behave strangely. However, Shakuni's skill and loaded dice soon turn the tide. Wealth slips away like water through Yudhishthira's fingers. He gambles more than he intends, goaded by Duryodhana's taunts and the tense curiosity of those present. When wealth is exhausted, he stakes his brothers one by one, losing them all. The hall gasps with each declaration and outcome. His voice shakes when he next offers himself. The dice tumble. He loses again. Duryodhana smirks, whispering to his brothers who laugh quietly behind cupped hands. Then comes the moment that freezes hearts. Yudhishthira, desperate and out of sense, wagers Draupadi. Shakuni's dice clatter and roll, stopping in Shakuni's favor. A heavy silence falls. Duryodhana orders his brother Dushasana to fetch Draupadi from her quarters. She resists, protesting that Yudhishthira had no right to stake her, for he had already lost himself. Dushasana drags her by the arm into the assembly hall. Her hair is disheveled, her eyes blazing. Kings, elders, and princes look on, some in shame, some in amusement. She stands before the assembly, questioning the legality and morality of what has transpired. Yudhishthira lowers his gaze. Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, all wise elders, remain silent, constrained by loyalty and protocol. Draupadi turns to the assembly, voice trembling but clear. "Answer me," she demands. "Am I free or am I one? Who here can decide my fate?" No one responds. Instead, Duryodhana gestures for Dushasana to disrobe her. The hall holds its breath. Dushasana reaches for her sari, laughing wickedly. Draupadi closes her eyes and inwardly calls out to you, the only one she trusts beyond the frailty of human morality. She prays with all her being, a plea that cuts across space. In Dwarka, you feel her distress like a sudden wave crashing at your feet. This is the moment you cannot ignore. Your response does not involve entering the hall or brandishing a weapon. Instead, you manifest through compassion. As Dushasana pulls, the fabric of Draupadi's sari does not end. It unfurls endlessly, layer upon layer, a cascade of cloth that pools at Dushasana's feet, then rises again around Draupadi. He pulls harder, his muscles straining, sweat beading on his forehead. But still the cloth comes, infinite as the cosmos that Yashoda glimpsed once in your mouth. Gasps turn to murmurs of awe. The assembly witnesses a miracle. Draupadi's dignity remains intact. Exhausted and humiliated, Dushasana collapses, hands burned from friction. You remain unseen, but felt. Draupadi senses your presence like a warm embrace. Tears stream down her face, not of shame, but of gratitude. She knows she is not alone. The elders cannot deny divine intervention. They look at one another, uncertain how to proceed. Anger flickers in Bhima's eyes. He vows then and there to tear apart Dushasana someday, a promise he will later keep. Arjuna clenches his fists, his jaw set. Yudhishthira sits shaken, forced to confront the consequences of his own choices. Duryodhana smirks less boldly now, but the fire of his hatred for the Pandavas grows. Shakuni gathers his dice, satisfied that the humiliation is complete. In the aftermath, Dhritarashtra, fearing divine retribution, grants Draupadi a boon. She asks for Yudhishthira's freedom. He grants a second. She asks for the freedom of her other husbands. Dhritarashtra, shaken by your unseen presence, grants these boons. Yet the Kauravas contrive another game. Yudhishthira agrees, believing in Dharma's unpredictable workings. Once again he loses everything, his brothers, himself, and Draupadi. This time, there is no humiliation. The wager is exile. The Pandavas are to leave Hastinapura for 12 years in the forest, followed by a year in disguise. If discovered during that year, they must repeat the exile. The assembly disperses. Some shake their heads in regret, others in satisfaction. Draupadi's eyes still burn, her mind replaying the moment of near dishonor and your intervention. Word of the exile reaches you quickly. You feel the weight of the Pandavas' impending hardships, yet you also recognize the potential for growth in adversity. You send a message to them, offering guidance and support. You remind them that Dharma is complex, and that sometimes surrendering to its flow, painful as it may be, leads to greater strength and clarity. I will be with you, you write, even when you cannot see me. Call upon me in your need. They take heart in your promise. As they prepare to leave the city, barefoot, dressed in simple Barka garments, the air hums with tension. Citizens of Hastinapura line the streets, some weeping, some silent. The Pandavas do not look back. They know that turning around might weaken their resolve. As they walk toward the forest, the sun sets behind the palace that no longer feels like home. The dice game, with its clatter and deceit, has irrevocably altered their lives. Draupadi's ordeal has revealed both the depths of human cruelty and the power of faith. Your intervention has sown seeds of devotion that will grow stronger in adversity. The exile ahead will test them physically and spiritually. You watch from afar, eyes soft, heart steady. Your message will accompany them, whispering in the rustle of leaves and the crackle of campfires. The story moves from the echoing halls of Hastinapura to the quiet paths of the forest, where your counsel will guide them through hardship and toward destiny. The forest absorbs everything: sounds, footsteps, even thoughts. Leaves whisper secrets overhead, and the ground is soft with fallen needles and moss. In exile, the Pandavas exchange palace marble for earth and stone, their silken garments for deerskin and bark. They live among trees and streams, cooking rice in earthen pots, washing in cold rivers, and sleeping on mats of grass. Nights come quickly in the woods. As the sun sinks, shadows lengthen, and the air cools. They gather around a fire, its flames licking the dark, casting moving patterns on their faces. Logs crackle and pop, sending up sparks that mingle with stars. And somewhere beyond the ring of light, crickets chirp steadily, their song like a heartbeat. You promised you would come when they needed you. One evening, as the sky blushes red and orange, you approach their camp. The forest path crunches softly beneath your feet. Resin scents the air. An owl hoots from a nearby branch. You carry no entourage, no weapons, only your presence. The Pandavas look up at the sound of your footsteps. Joy and relief wash over them. Draupadi rises, eyes bright with unshed tears. Yudhishthira's solemn face cracks into a smile. Bhima stands quickly, eager to greet you. Arjuna's shoulders relax. Nakula and Sahadeva step forward, their twin expressions mirroring gratitude. You embrace each of them, feeling the calluses on their palms and the warmth of their tired bodies. They invite you to sit on a log by the fire. Someone passes a wooden bowl of rice and wild greens. Another offers water from a clay pot. The food is simple, but eaten together with friends, it tastes richer than any royal feast. You watch the flames dance, listening to the river's distant murmur. In the flickering light, their faces reveal lines of worry and determination. They begin to speak of their time in the forest, the days spent gathering fruits and roots, the nights haunted by memories of the dice hall. They confess fears and frustrations. Yudhishthira admits guilt for gambling away their kingdom. Bhima growls about revenge. Arjuna fidgets, yearning for action. Nakula and Sahadeva speak of protecting their brothers. Draupadi's voice trembles as she recalls her humiliation. You listen, letting each word sink in. When they finish, you clear your throat softly, and the night seems to lean closer. You tell them that adversity is not punishment but a forge. Gold, you say, is purified by fire. You remind Yudhishthira that even kings stumble, but true leaders learn from their missteps. You reassure Bhima that anger can be fuel, but only if channeled with wisdom, not rage. To Arjuna, you emphasize patience. Great warriors strike not when provoked, but when the moment is right. Nakula and Sahadeva, you tell, are the pillars of the group, steady and supportive, and their roles, though less sung, are no less sacred. When you turn to Draupadi, you hold her gaze. You acknowledge her pain, validate her anger, and remind her that her strength and dignity remain unbroken. She smiles then, tears glistening, comforted by your recognition. You speak of Dharma, that elusive guiding principle. It is not always clear, you admit, but it is always present. Sometimes, you explain, doing nothing is as much an act as doing something. You share stories of ancient kings who lost kingdoms only to gain wisdom, of sages who lived in forests longer than the Pandavas will, emerging enlightened. You tell them of your own childhood mischief, of butter stolen and serpents subdued, to remind them that even gods grew through experiences. The fire crackles, an ember pops and spirals upward. The crickets keep rhythm. Your voice lowers as you say that the forest itself can teach. How trees bend in wind, yet remain rooted. How streams find paths around obstacles rather than crashing headlong into rocks. After the stories, a contemplative silence settles. It is punctured only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the sigh of someone shifting on the hard ground. Then Yudhishthira asks the question that has been hovering in the back of every mind. What next? They cannot live in exile forever. Their kingdom is occupied. Their subjects suffer. Bhima suggests gathering allies for war. Arjuna nods, but his eyes flicker with uncertainty. Draupadi clenches her jaw. You let their ideas settle like dust after a windstorm. Then, softly, you propose that before swords are drawn, words should be tried. Peace, you say, must be given a chance, even when it seems hopeless. They look skeptical, but you explain that asking for what is rightfully theirs is not weakness. It is dharma. If Duryodhana refuses, you add, then your conscience will be clear when you pick up arms. The discussion turns to who should carry such a message. They consider sending a Brahmin, a minister, even one of themselves. Each option seems insufficient. It becomes clear that the messenger must be someone Duryodhana cannot easily dismiss, someone with both authority and love for them. Silence falls again as eyes slowly turn toward you. The firelight plays across your features. You feel their unspoken plea. You have always been their ally, their confidant, their guide. You smile gently. I will go, you say, voice steady as the earth beneath you. I will speak to Duryodhana. I will ask him to return what is yours. Relief and gratitude ripple through the group. Bhima exhales loudly. Arjuna's shoulders drop. Draupadi's hand finds her heart. Yudhishthira bows his head deeply. You caution them, though. Negotiation is not a guarantee of peace. Prepare your hearts, you advise. Whether the path ahead is diplomacy or battle, stay true to Dharma. The night deepens. Stars wheel overhead, and the moon glides between tree branches. The fire burns lower, its warmth settling into your bones. You stand, brushing off bits of bark from your garment. You promise to leave soon, to travel to Hastinapura on their behalf. They walk with you to the edge of camp, their footsteps soft on the forest floor. Crickets fall silent for a moment, as if the forest too is listening. You turn back to look at them one last time. They are silhouetted by the dying fire, eyes shining. You raise your hand in blessing. Trust, you say simply. Then you step into the darkness beyond the firelight. Behind you, the Pandavas return to their campfire, emboldened by your words. Ahead, on a road that snakes through woods and fields toward a city of stone and intrigue, you carry their hopes and the weight of impending peace or war. Your journey to Hastinapura begins before dawn. The road is long and dusty, lined with neem trees whose leaves whisper as you pass. Birds still sleep in their nests, and the eastern sky is pale with impending sun. You travel in a simple chariot, unarmed and unguarded, carrying only the weight of your message. The closer you get to the city, the more the air thickens with anticipation. You can almost feel the collective breath being held, waiting for something to shift. As the sun rises, it glints off the white stone walls and towers of Hastinapura, bathing them in gold. Smoke from morning fires curls above rooftops, carrying the scent of burning ghee and incense. Inside the palace, polished marble floors reflect torchlight like a still pool. Pillars carved with ancient motifs line the corridors. Courtiers in silk and gold whisper and glance at you as you pass. The tension is palpable. It hums under the polite greetings and practiced smiles. Your footsteps echo softly in the long hall that leads to the assembly chamber. On either side, elaborate tapestries depict scenes of past battles and royal lineages. You remember, running in similar halls as a child in Mathura, your bare feet slapping on cool stone. Now, each step feels heavier, loaded with the hopes of those exiled in the forest. When you enter the court, every seat is filled. On a raised throne sits Dhritarashtra, blind but stern, his eyes covered with a cloth. Beside him is his eldest son, Duryodhana, chin high, eyes sharp. On other seats sit Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, Vidura, and other elders, each a pillar of this great lineage. Around them stand kings and princes allied with the Kauravas, their armor gleaming, their swords sheathed but present. The smell of sandalwood mixes with the faint scent of oil on metal. The murmurs die down. You bow to the assembly in respect. Then you raise your head and begin to speak. Your voice carries easily in the hall, clear and steady. You speak of Dharma, of justice, of the bonds between brothers. You remind Dhritarashtra of his duty to be fair, of the rights of the Pandavas who are not merely his nephews, but his own sons, through Kunti, his sister-in-law. You paint vivid images of war's horrors, fields littered with the bodies of sons, rivers running red, mothers wailing over sons who will never return. You do not berate or belittle. Instead, you appeal to their sense of humanity. You describe the simple, peaceful lives the Pandavas seek. A few villages, a small portion of the kingdom they were born to share. As you speak, You watch faces. Vidura nods in agreement. Bhishma's gaze lowers in shame. Drona's hands tighten. Shakuni's eyes narrow slyly. Duryodhana's face remains impassive, jaw set, fingers tapping rhythmically on his thigh. When you finish, there is a moment of silence. Dhritarashtra speaks, voice trembling slightly. He offers a few symbolic concessions. Perhaps 5 villages, he says, but his voice lacks authority. Duryodhana cuts him off. His tone is cold. He refuses to give up even the land that could be contained on the point of a needle. He accuses the Pandavas of greed. He claims they lost everything fairly. His eyes flash with pride and insecurity. He laughs when you mention the destruction that war will bring. Let the war come, he says. We are ready. His allies murmur approval. Your heart sinks, but your expression remains serene. You sense the heavy cloak of destiny settling more firmly on the assembly. Shakuni, ever the manipulator, whispers something to Duryodhana. Suddenly guards move forward, spears in hand. Seize him, Duryodhana commands, hoping to prove his dominance by capturing you. The soldiers hesitate. They know who you are. They know the stories of Putana and Kaliya, of Govardhan and Kurukshetra. Still, they advance. You remain seated, hands resting on your knees. In a voice neither loud nor soft, you speak to Dhritarashtra. Your son would bind the one he cannot control. Some in the assembly shift uncomfortably. Vidura whispers urgently into the king's ear, reminding him of your divinity. Duryodhana's impatience grows. He orders again. The guards lunge. In response, you rise slowly. There is no anger in your eyes, only purpose. You extend your arms outward, and in that moment, the air ripples. The hall seems to expand and dissolve. Suddenly, you are no longer just a man in yellow silk. The court glimpses something beyond human comprehension. Your body grows impossibly vast. Heads multiply, arms extend in all directions. In some hands you hold conch shells, in others, swords and discs. Universes spin within your torso. Suns blaze in your eyes. Planets rotate around your crown. They see the entire cosmos contained within you. Galaxies swirling like dust motes. Time itself folding and unfolding. They see birth and death, creation and destruction, all in one overwhelming vision. The elders gasp. Some cover their faces. Others fall to their knees. Duryodhana steps back, face blanching, sweat beading on his brow. The same awe Yashoda felt when she saw the universe in your mouth floods the hall. Then, just as suddenly, the vision withdraws. You stand again as yourself, small in the vast hall, yet greater than any king. The assembly is silent. Even Duryodhana cannot speak for a heartbeat. He swallows, then laughs awkwardly. He dismisses your display as a trick, a conjurer's show. His pride refuses to bend. You look at him with a mixture of pity and resolve. You have given them every opportunity to choose peace. They have chosen otherwise. You straighten your shoulders, accept Dhritarashtra's half-hearted apologies, and turn to leave. I have come with love and reason, you say calmly. You have chosen your path, so be it. The polished marble feels cool under your feet as you walk out. Behind you, the murmurs rise again, some fearful, some mocking. Your heart is heavy but steady. Outside, the sun is bright. Pigeons flutter from parapets. A breeze lifts the edge of your shawl. You know that your plea has failed, but you do not feel defeated. There is clarity now. Destiny unfolds with each step. You will return to the Pandavas with the news that war is inevitable. You will stand by Arjuna's side, not as a prince with weapons, but as his charioteer and guide. You will steer his horses into the heart of battle and steer his mind toward truth. The failed peace mission sets the stage for the Kurukshetra war and for your role in the Gita's timeless teaching. As you cross the courtyard, the sound of your own footsteps echoes like a drumbeat, carrying the weight of what is to come. News of your failed peace mission spreads like a dry forest fire. Allies and enemies alike tighten their belts and polish their armor. The drums of war begin to beat in every kingdom. In Dwarka, fishermen repair nets and merchants tally their accounts, while in Hastinapura, blacksmiths hammer steel and soldiers sharpen swords. Every conversation carries a double meaning. Every glance hints at allegiance. Even the wind seems restless, carrying scents of sweat and metal. Amidst this rising tension, two cousins set their sights on the same goal, securing your support. In the quiet pre-dawn hours before roosters crow, Duryodhana arrives at your residence. He is dressed in royal silk, jewels glittering on his arms and neck. He strides into your private chamber with confidence, expecting his presence alone to command attention. Finding you asleep, he hesitates only for a heartbeat before choosing his seat near your head. In his mind, it is the place of honor, near your eyes, where he hopes to be seen first when you wake. Shortly after, another guest arrives. It is Arjuna. He walks softly, aware of the sanctity of the moment, and he chooses to sit at your feet. He waits patiently, hands folded, his gaze on the floor. His humility fills the room like incense. The rising sun paints the room with warm light, and your eyelids flutter open. The first thing you see is Arjuna, sitting quietly at your feet. You smile, eyes still soft with sleep, and greet him by name. Only then do you notice Duryodhana at your head. He stands up quickly, bowing, asserting his seniority. He speaks first, reminding you that he arrived before Arjuna. He claims, according to royal etiquette, that you must grant him the first choice of aid. Arjuna says little. His eyes remain calm, trusting. You listen to both, without interruption, your expression unreadable. You weigh their intentions, not with scales, but with intuition. Then you speak. You tell them that you will assist both, but each in a different way. You offer your vast army, arrayed with mighty warriors, horses, and elephants. To one. To the other, you offer yourself, unarmed, with the promise that you will not take up arms. You make it clear that your personal service will be as a charioteer, not a combatant. Duryodhana's eyes gleam at the mention of your army. He imagines rank upon rank of soldiers, gleaming shields, pounding hooves. He thinks numbers decide wars. He chooses your army without hesitation. Relief and pride wash over his face. He bows, satisfied that he has obtained the greater share. You nod. Then you turn to Arjuna and ask, "And you?" Arjuna's answer is immediate and heartfelt. He chooses you. He knows that divine counsel and presence outweigh numbers. You smile. There is a quiet joy in being chosen not for your might, but for who you are. When news of this choice reaches the courts, whispers turn to debate. Some call Duryodhana shrewd, others see him as greedy. Many marvel at Arjuna's faith. Balarama, your elder brother, announces his neutrality. He loves the Pandavas, but he also respects Duryodhana, his former student in mace warfare. He decides to spend the war on pilgrimage rather than take sides. In the Pandava camp, preparations accelerate. Allies like Drupada, Virata, and the mighty warriors of Panchala and Kekaya gather under their banner. You reassure Yudhishthira that though he has fewer troops, he has something more powerful, Dharma and your presence. As the day of battle draws near, you rise early, before the first conch blows. The battlefield of Kurukshetra stretches out like a giant's playground, dusty, vast, and ominously empty. Dew clings to blades of grass, sparkling in the dawn light. The coolness of the morning contrasts with the heat of impending conflict. Horses snort and stamp, their breath visible in the chill. You approach Arjuna's chariot, a sturdy wooden vehicle with high sides, painted in gold and blue, its wheels wrapped in metal bands to endure rough ground. 2 white horses are harnessed to it, their coats gleaming, their manes braided. You run your hands along their strong necks, feeling the warmth beneath their skin. Taking the reins in your hands, you feel the rough texture of leather against your palms. You savor the simplicity of this task, guiding animals rather than armies. Arjuna climbs onto the chariot behind you. His quiver is full, and his Gandiva bow rests across his knees. He looks at the opposing army with a warrior's eye, counting divisions, noting banners, estimating distances. His jaw sets, but there is a flicker of unease in his eyes. He leans forward and whispers, "Guidance, friend. I will need your counsel." You nod without turning. Your role now is not to command armies, but to command horses and hearts. Your humility in taking the charioteer's seat is not lost on anyone. Kings who once bowed to you as a sovereign now watch as you sit at the front of a chariot, reins in hand, dust at your feet. Between the 2 armies, conch shells blow, shattering the fragile quiet. The Kaurava side erupts into a cacophony of drums and trumpets, elephants trumpeting, warriors shouting. On the Pandava side, conches answer. Bhima's voice booms as he roars, his mace resting on his shoulder. Arjuna lifts his Gandiva and strings it, the string humming like a plucked harp. He turns to you again, eyes searching. His confidence wavers as he sees revered elders and beloved teachers arrayed against him. In that moment, he feels the weight of war, not just in his arms but in his heart. His voice cracks when he asks, "How can I fight those I respect?" You gently pull the horses forward into the space between the armies. The chariot's wheels creak softly. The dust rises in small swirls. You can feel Arjuna's turmoil like a trembling in the reins. You stop the chariot between the 2 armies, at his request, and allow him to take in the scene. Both armies face each other, endless rows of armor, flags fluttering in the breeze, faces set. The sun is higher now, casting long shadows. The air is thick with anticipation. Arjuna's bow arm slackens. He sets Gandiva down. He sinks onto the bench, head in his hands, overwhelmed by emotion. You turn to look at him. Your eyes are compassionate but steady. You know that this moment is the cusp of a great teaching. The questions he now asks, about duty, life, death, and the nature of the self, will lead into the timeless discourse of the Bhagavad Gita. As you prepare to answer him, the battle's dawn becomes more than just the beginning of war. It becomes a dawn of wisdom. The leather reins lie ready in your hands. The horses stand alert, and the world seems to hold its breath, waiting for the words that will follow. The plain of Kurukshetra stretches under a pale morning sky, vast and waiting. In the half-light before sunrise, mist coils low over the ground, chilling the ankles of warriors who stand at attention. Banners flutter lazily atop chariots, their embroidered symbols damp with dew. Conch shells sound, deep, resonant notes that cut through the murmur of thousands. Drums answer from the other side, rolling like distant thunder. The air is rich with smells, dust stirred by restless horses, the metallic tang of sharpened weapons, the earthy scent of trampled grass. 2 great armies face each other, flags snapping in the breeze, armor gleaming. Crows perch on the edges of shields, cawing and flapping impatiently. For a moment, time seems to hold its breath. On your chariot, Arjuna looks upon this scene and feels his breath hitch. He sees familiar faces on both sides, teachers who once guided his hand, cousins who shared his childhood, friends who laughed with him. He sees grandsires like Bhishma and gurus like Drona, each standing ready. His throat tightens, his bow, Gandiva, slips slightly in his grip. "Krishna," he whispers, voice trembling, "how can I fight these men? They are my family, my mentors. If I slay them, I win a kingdom drenched in the blood of those I love. If I refuse, I betray my duty as a warrior." His arms go limp. His shoulders slump. He sets his bow aside and sits down, tears welling in his eyes. The sounds of conches and drums recede, replaced by the pounding of his heart. The weight of what he is asked to do presses on him like the heavy crown Victoria once felt. Except this crown is of responsibility, not gold. You turn to him, your gaze calm and steady. "Partha," you say softly, using his other name, "your sorrow is understandable, but your reasoning is clouded." You remind him that the soul is eternal, uncreated and indestructible. Weapons cannot cut it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it, you recite. Birth and death are but changes in form, not the end of existence. You tell him that wise people do not grieve for the living or the dead, because the soul merely passes from one body to another. Duty, you explain, is not about personal gain or loss. It is about acting rightly, according to one's nature. As a warrior, Arjuna's dharma is to protect righteousness. Inaction, in his case, would allow adharma to flourish. Do your duty, you counsel, and surrender the results to the universe. Act without attachment to success or failure. Make every action an offering, not a demand. You speak of different paths, of knowledge, jnana, of action, karma, and of devotion, bhakti. Each path, you emphasize, leads to the same truth if followed sincerely. You describe how one can act in the world without being entangled, by seeing oneself as an instrument of the divine will and dedicating every deed to that higher purpose. You explain that true freedom comes not from withdrawal, but from living in the world while remaining inwardly unattached. Your words flow like a clear stream, carrying pearls of insight. Arjuna listens, his breathing slowing. The tumult of thoughts inside him begins to settle like sediment in calm water. He asks questions about discipline, about the mind's restlessness, about what happens after death. You answer each patiently, drawing analogies from nature, the steady flame that does not flicker in windless air, the tortoise that withdraws its limbs. Still, Arjuna hesitates. He wants to believe, but doubts linger. "If it pleases you," he says hesitantly, "show me your true form. Let me see you as you really are, so my faith may be unwavering." You nod. With his permission, and by your grace, you reveal yourself, not as the gentle cowherd or the wise charioteer, but as the infinite. The world dissolves. Suddenly, you are everywhere. Arjuna sees countless faces, arms, and eyes, worlds within worlds, suns and moons orbiting, stars being born and dying. He sees roaring flames consuming entire realms. He sees rivers of light and darkness. He sees cycles of creation and destruction compressed into a single moment. Your mouths consume warriors and kings. Your eyes radiate compassion and ferocity. The boundaries between his body and the universe blur. It is a vision beyond language, as overwhelming as the cosmos Yashoda glimpsed when she peered into your mouth. Arjuna trembles, his hair standing on end. His voice cracks as he prays for protection from this vastness, for a return to a form he can comprehend. "Fear not," you reassure him, withdrawing the cosmic display. You take on your familiar gentle form, four-armed but radiant, and then the even more familiar human form he knows. Arjuna bows deeply, tears of awe and humility streaming down his cheeks. He apologizes for any moments of disrespect in their friendship, for addressing you as "O Krishna" or "friend" without recognizing your divinity. He confesses his earlier confusion and pledges to follow your guidance completely. "My delusion is dispelled," he says. "I will do your bidding." He reaches for his bow again, fingers steady. He rises to his feet, shoulders square, eyes clear. The heaviness that once pinned him down has lifted. You nod, your own eyes shining with compassion and confidence. "Now," you say, "stand up and fight. You are merely the instrument. The outcome is in higher hands." You blow your conch, Panchajanya, its note resonant and pure. The sound reverberates across the plain, answered by the Pandavas' conches. Arjuna blows his own, Devadatta, its tone declaring renewed resolve. The Kaurava conches respond. Their drums thunder. The battlefield awakens. Horses rear. Elephants trumpet. War cries rise. Dust swirls under thundering hooves. Arjuna stands tall in the chariot, bow drawn, arrows gleaming. You steer the horses toward the enemy lines, the reins taut in your hands. As the first arrows fly, and the Kurukshetra war commences, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita take root in more than one heart. They become a song of the soul, a guiding light not just for Arjuna, but for all who seek clarity in moments of doubt. The first day of battle dawns bright and cold, yet even before the sun's rays have fully warmed the earth, dust already hangs in the air. Two armies explode into motion like waves crashing against a shore. From your position at the front of Arjuna's chariot, you feel the reins pull and slacken as the white horses surge forward. Their hooves pound the packed earth, throwing up clods of dirt. Arrows fly through the air like swarms of bees, whistling and humming before thudding into shields or flesh. Spears arc like fishing lines cast by unseen giants. Conch shells and battle cries puncture the roar. Each impact, each scream, each clash of metal on metal sends ripples through the soundscape. The ground beneath the chariot wheels trembles with the charge of elephants whose bellies are painted bright colors, their tusks gleaming. Dust clouds rise so thick they darken the sun, turning day into an amber twilight. You steer with precision, leaning this way and that, guiding Arjuna where he needs to be. The leather reins feel rough against your palms. They are your anchor in the maelstrom. You watch Arjuna draw back his bow with practiced ease, arrows flying in rapid succession. He moves like a dancer, each muscle remembering its role. His arms flash as he shoots at warriors he knows only by their banners. Kritavarman's red flag, Bhagadatta's golden elephant, Bhurisravas's blue pennant. You whisper names and positions as needed. To your right, Arjuna, Jayadratha behind the tall man with the sun emblem. Ahead, Bhishma's bow is lifting. Be ready. Your words cut through the chaos, offering clarity. Through it all, you maintain a calm center. In the midst of screaming men and animals, you speak softly, as if teaching a child to focus amid noise. The days blur together like layers of translucent cloth. On the second day, your horses almost stumble over the body of a prince. You guide them around and whisper a blessing for the fallen. On the third, Bhima roars, his mace spinning and crushing chariots like ripe pumpkins. On the fourth, Abhimanyu charges ahead, eager and fearless, his youthful face set in determination. You watch him weave through lines like a bird in flight. On the fifth, the Kaurava side unveils a new tactic. They attack from behind with a flanking maneuver. You steer the chariot in tight circles, arrows whizzing past your ears, adjusting your route to keep Arjuna safe. Sweat runs down your temples, dust cakes on your tongue. You taste iron when you bite your lip. The air is thick with the smell of blood, sweat, and crushed wildflowers underfoot. You remember the scent of butter and jasmine from Gokul, but here the fragrances are of battle and death. By the 6th day, exhaustion sets in. Even the horse's flanks heave with effort. Arjuna's shoulders droop slightly between shots. The heat of midday presses down like an invisible hand. You offer him a mouthful of water, and he drinks quickly, eyes never leaving the battlefield. The 7th day brings new horrors. You see a friend's head fly off his shoulders. It lands near your chariot wheels, eyes still open. The 8th day, Duryodhana orders his armies to focus arrows on you, hoping to unsettle Arjuna. He fails. You smile and turn the chariot with a flourish, causing the arrows to miss. Bhima cheers, his laugh booming over the din. On the 9th day, you watch as water-bearers run back and forth with clay pots, their bare feet leaving bloodied prints on the earth. The war is now more than a clash of armies. It is a relentless machine grinding youth, hope, and honor into dust. The 10th day is pivotal. Bhishma, the grandsire of both sides, stands tall, his white beard stained red, his armor glinting under the sun. He is unstoppable, his arrows raining down like monsoon rain, his vow to fight until sunset unbreakable. The Kauravas rally behind him. The Pandavas falter. You know that if Bhishma continues, the war will end in one day with the Pandavas' annihilation. You whisper to Arjuna, urging him to recall the vow Bhishma once made. He will not raise his weapon against a woman, or one who was once a woman. You call Shikhandi forward, the reincarnation of Amba, carrying an unresolved grudge. Shikhandi steps in front of Arjuna, shield and bow ready. Bhishma lowers his eyes out of respect for his vow. In that brief pause, you command Arjuna, aim for his breast. Arjuna hesitates for a fraction of a second. It is hard to shoot at someone he reveres. But then he lifts Gandiva and releases a storm of arrows. Each one lands with a dull thud, piercing Bhishma's body. The mighty grandsire falls, his armor sounding like thunder when it hits the ground. He lies on a bed of arrows, his body resembling a porcupine, yet his face serene. He uses the shafts as a pillow, choosing to remain alive until he sees an auspicious time to depart. As the sun sets, painting the sky in purples and pinks, Bhishma lies on his bed of arrows, head supported by 3 shafts you personally place beneath him. His eyes soften as you approach. I have been relieved of my duty, he whispers, gratitude and sorrow mingling. He blesses you and the Pandavas, asking you to ensure that he sees water again. Arjuna pierces the ground beside him, and a spout of fresh water arcs into Bhishma's mouth, quenching his thirst. For a moment, there is peace, a tiny oasis amid the carnage. You know that this is just the beginning of tragedies. Behind you, campfires dot the horizon like stars. In the Pandava camp, the mood is mixed, relief at Bhishma's fall, dread at what comes next. On the Kaurava side, grief mingles with renewed resolve for revenge. Exhaustion weighs heavy on every shoulder. Men clean their weapons mechanically, eyes vacant. Wounds are bandaged, tears are wiped away. You sit by the chariot, rubbing your horses' necks, feeling their hearts still racing. Arjuna rests, his bow lying across his lap, his mind heavy with the day's events. You look up at the night sky. Orion appears, his belt bright. You think of the cosmic dance you showed Arjuna and the smallness of individual struggles in that vastness. But you also feel the weight of each life lost, each tear shed. 11 days of battle have unfolded, each blending into the next like a dream, both vivid and blurred. The war is far from over. Ahead lie more challenges. Abhimanyu's fateful entry into the Chakravyuha, Karna's arrows, Drona's fall. The sorrow and exhaustion you witness presage the tragic losses to come. You whisper a prayer for strength, not just for yourself and your friends, but for all who must endure this relentless clash. The fires flicker low. Somewhere in the dark, a conch shell is blown softly, signaling the end of the day's fighting. You close your eyes for a moment, then open them to the reality that tomorrow, the dreamlike cadence will begin anew. Midway through the 18-day war, the battlefield transforms from a place of fervent clash to a landscape of profound sadness. The sun still rises each morning, but its light seems duller, filtering through a haze of dust and smoke. The earth is torn and furrowed by wheels and hooves. Broken chariots lie like beached whales. Fallen banners flap weakly in the hot wind. The once green Kurukshetra plain is now brown and red, littered with arrows and bodies. The air is heavy with an acrid blend of iron, ash, and sweat. Crows and vultures circle overhead, their cries a constant lament. Amid this devastation, stories of individual valor and heartbreak unfold. One of the most poignant is that of Abhimanyu. The young warrior, barely out of boyhood, volunteers to break the chakra vyuha, a rotating disc formation devised by Drona. Raised on tales of heroism and eager to prove himself, he rides out alone when his elders hesitate. You watch as he cuts through outer layers, his bowstring humming, arrows slicing through the air. For a moment it seems he might succeed. His face is set, eyes bright, muscles moving in fluid rhythm. But once inside, the formation closes behind him. The Kaurava commanders surround him like wolves. He fights bravely, using a chariot wheel as a weapon when his bow breaks. His roars echo across the field. Yet outnumbered and trapped, he falls. The sight of his body, broken and bloodied, still clutching remnants of a wheel, is seared into your memory. You hear his voice calling for his father. Later, when Arjuna learns of his son's death, grief and rage twist his features. He turns to you, eyes blazing, voice cracked. "Why?" he cries. Your heart aches, but your face remains composed. You remind him gently of the cost of dharma, of sacrifices demanded by righteousness. In the quiet of your soul, you weep. Abhimanyu's death is only one of many turning points. Bhishma's fall, though orchestrated with compassion and strategy, leaves both sides subdued. After he lies on his bed of arrows, he chooses to watch the rest of the war, eyes calm, accepting the price he has paid for his vows. The war continues, and soon Drona too becomes vulnerable. The great teacher fights with unmatched skill, his arrows multiplying like raindrops. Day after day, he cuts through ranks, his fury fueled by the humiliation of the dice hall and the burning of his son. To stop him, the Pandavas resort to a half-truth. Bhima kills an elephant named Ashwatthama and shouts that Ashwatthama has fallen. When Drona hears this, he looks to Yudhishthira, whose honesty is legendary. Yudhishthira hesitates, knowing that the elephant's death is not the one Drona thinks, then says the words, "Ashwatthama is dead." He adds, "the elephant," under his breath. Drona hears what he fears. His bow drops. He sits down, placing his weapons on the ground. Drishtadyumna decapitates him. You watch with a heavy heart. The killing is strategic. It is also stained with deceit. The moral complexity hangs in the air like dust. You say a silent prayer for the teacher who gave both sides their prowess. As the war drags on, codes of honor fray. On the 14th night, to fulfill Arjuna's vow to avenge Abhimanyu, you recall the sun early, creating a momentary eclipse so that Jayadratha believes the day has ended. Arjuna takes his chance and sends an arrow that severs Jayadratha's head, fulfilling the vow. Another bending of time and truth, another weight on your heart. Later, when Duryodhana stands alone, his brothers and allies slain, Bhima steps forward to end the conflict. Duryodhana's body is covered in mace armor that leaves only his thighs vulnerable. Bhima circles him, heart pounding, memory of Draupadi's humiliation fueling his resolve. Yet the rules of mace combat forbid striking below the waist. Bhima looks to you. In that instant, You nod almost imperceptibly. The justice you seek for Draupadi and the world cannot be achieved without breaking a rule. Bhima brings his mace down on Duryodhana's thigh. The bone shatters with a sound like a tree trunk splitting. Duryodhana collapses. The war is effectively over. The moral complexity deepens. Victory tastes bitter. Throughout these episodes, you guide and counsel, bearing the weight of each decision. When Arjuna hesitates to shoot arrows at his elders, you remind him of his duty. But each reminder costs you a part of your own peace. When you encourage Bhima to strike low, you feel the crumbling of an old ideal. When you comfort Yudhishthira after Drona's fall, you see his eyes darken with the realization that even truth can be bent under extreme circumstances. You empathize with your enemies too. You see the anguish in Duryodhana's eyes as he lies on the ground, body broken, pride shattered. You remember him as a boy learning mace fighting from your brother, Balarama, laughing with his cousins before envy took root. By the time the war ends, the battlefield is a charred, lifeless expanse. The ground is littered with weapons, bodies, and sorrow. Smoke from funeral pyres hangs low, stinging eyes and throats. The once hopeful banners are torn, their colors faded. The survivors move like ghosts through the haze, collecting their dead. The acrid smell of burnt flesh and ghee fills your nostrils. You recall the heavy robes and incense-filled air of Victoria's coronation, and the later loneliness of her widowhood, a heaviness that mirrors the gloom that now envelops Kurukshetra. You feel a profound sadness, not just for the lives lost, but for the innocence destroyed. You stand in the middle of the field, Arjuna beside you, both of you exhausted. The wind picks up, carrying ashes across the plain, whispering of endings and beginnings. Ahead lies the aftermath, the crowning of Yudhishthira, the rebuilding of kingdoms, and the rituals to cleanse the sins committed in the name of righteousness. The chapter of war closes, and the chapter of reflection and restoration begins to unfold. When the clamor of battle finally fades, silence feels heavy. In the wake of slaughter, the Pandavas return to a kingdom scarred but standing. Yudhishthira is crowned king of Hastinapura. The coronation hall smells of sandalwood and fresh garlands. Oil lamps flicker, casting soft light on faces lined with fatigue and sorrow. Yudhishthira's crown, heavy with gold and jewels, is placed upon his brow with trembling hands. Conch shells blow, and voices chant blessings. Yet even as flower petals shower down, tears streak many cheeks. Every cheer for the new king is tempered by thoughts of those who will never return. Ganga's gentle murmur outside the palace walls seems to whisper the names of fallen sons and fathers. The relief of dharma restored coexists with the grief of loss. You watch Yudhishthira's shoulders straighten under the crown. You sense his resolve to rule with compassion. You also see him glance at empty spaces where Bhishma and Drona once stood, his eyes clouding for a moment. In the days that follow, you move among the people, offering solace. You visit the widows who still wear new bangles, now broken. You listen to mothers, speak of sons who fell bravely. You hold the hands of children whose fathers are gone. Your presence calms them. You remind them that grief is part of the human journey, but life continues. You speak of cycles and seasons, of seeds buried in soil that sprout after rain. The Ashwamedha sacrifice is prepared, a complex ritual to establish Yudhishthira's sovereignty and atone for the war's violence. A white horse is consecrated and set loose to roam where it will, accompanied by warriors who challenge anyone who tries to seize it. The scent of ghee burning in large ladles fills the air. Priests chant mantras that reverberate in the pit of your stomach. Fires crackle, their smoke curling upward like prayers. You preside over the rituals, ensuring each offering is made correctly. Each act is both political and spiritual, asserting authority while acknowledging cosmic order. Amid rebuilding, a flicker of hope emerges with the birth of Parikshit. Uttara, Abhimanyu's young widow, carries his child. When the curse of Ashwatthama's Brahmastra threatens to end the unborn child's life, you intervene, surrounding the womb with your radiance, absorbing the weapon's fury. The baby is born healthy. When you hold him, his tiny fingers curl around yours with surprising strength. His eyes, bright and curious, search your face as if recognizing you. You name him Parikshit, the one who has been tested. His birth is like the first green shoot, breaking through scorched earth, a reminder that life finds a way. He will inherit the throne and continue the lineage. Arjuna's face softens when he sees his grandson. The lines of grief ease momentarily. Yudhishthira smiles, perhaps for the first time since the war. Draupadi cradles the infant, tears slipping silently down her cheeks, not just of sadness, but of gratitude. Time moves forward as it always does. Rebuilding becomes routine. Fields are plowed again. Homes are repaired. Traders reopen their shops. Artisans craft new goods. Scribes record the events of the war, while bards begin to sing of its heroes. You oversee efforts to distribute resources fairly. You counsel Yudhishthira on justice and mercy. You mediate disputes between warriors now home from the front. Through these days, a quiet awareness grows within you. Your earthly mission is nearing completion. You feel it in the way your body tires more quickly, in the way your mind turns inward. You decide to return to Dwarka, to your own people, to the city by the sea that has long been your sanctuary. When you reach Dwarka, you are greeted by familiar sights and sounds. The cry of gulls over the harbour, the salty breeze, the busy chatter of market stalls. Yet something feels different. Portents of doom arise in small, unsettling ways. Clay pots that have held water for years crack for no reason. Crows gather at crossroads and caw incessantly, their dark shapes ominous against bright skies. In the courtyards, palm trees drop their fronds suddenly, startling those beneath. Wise elders whisper of a heaviness they cannot explain. You walk through the city, noting each sign, feeling a growing sense of inevitability. Your sons and kinsmen have grown strong and proud. They have tasted wealth and power, and in some cases, arrogance. You sense that the same force that built this city may soon undo it. You recall the words of Gandhari spoken after the war. In her grief over the loss of her 100 sons, she confronted you. The ashes of battle still clung to your clothes. Her eyes, blind yet piercing, met yours. With a voice quivering from sorrow and anger, she cursed you, that just as she had watched her kin perish, so would you witness the demise of your own clan. You accepted her curse with humility, acknowledging the law of cause and effect. You knew then that the Yadava clan, once humble and righteous, might one day be consumed by its own pride. You resolved not to interfere when the time came, trusting that all events serve a larger purpose. As days pass in Dwarka, the signs intensify. Your son's laughter grows rougher, edged with drunkenness. Disputes arise over trivial matters. Insults are traded more freely. One day, a group of Yadava youth playfully dress Samba, your son, as a pregnant woman, to mock a group of visiting sages. Offended, the sages curse that Samba will give birth to an iron bolt that will destroy the clan. The curse manifests. Samba delivers a lump of iron. Your people panic and pulverize the bolt, throwing the pieces into the sea. They think the curse averted, but the iron washes ashore as reeds. The stage is set for a fratricidal brawl. You feel Gandhari's prophecy aligning with the sage's curse. You know that the demise of the Yadavas will soon unfold. You cannot prevent it. You can only watch, just as Bhishma watched the war from his bed of arrows. There is a strange peace in acceptance. You prepare yourself inwardly for what comes next, ready to fulfill the remainder of your earthly destiny. Long before dew settled on the reeds of Prabhasa, words spoken in anger took root in destiny. After the war, Gandhari, her eyes covered but her heart seething, cursed you. She had lost all of her 100 sons, and she blamed you for not preventing their deaths. May you one day watch your own clan perish, she said, voice trembling with grief and fury. You bowed your head, accepting her curse, knowing that even gods must bear the consequences of actions and the weight of empathy. Years pass. Dwarka's streets pulse with prosperity. Palaces gleam in the sun. The young Yadavas, sons and grandsons of your kin, grow strong and carefree. Pride blooms unchecked. One day, your son Samba and his friends decide to tease a group of visiting sages, including Vishvamitra, Durvasa, Vashista, and Narada. They dress Samba as a pregnant woman and ask the sages to predict the gender of her unborn child. The sages, seeing through the prank, become enraged. Their curses are swift. Samba will bear an iron bolt that will destroy the Yadava clan. Samba indeed gives birth to a lump of iron. You instruct that it be ground to powder and thrown into the sea. Your people obey, thinking the danger gone. But destiny is resilient. The iron pieces wash ashore as reeds. They grow thick and strong, unnoticed by the revelers. Portents multiply. Your Sudarshana chakra disappears. Panchajanya, your conch, is lost. Balarama's plough vanishes. Dreams turn terrifying. Men insult elders. Women betray husbands. Pests swarm grain stores. Dark omens accumulate like storm clouds. You sense Gandhari's curse unfolding. You gather your kin and urge them to go to the sacred waters of Prabhasa, hoping that a pilgrimage might cleanse their minds. They agree, but once they arrive, the mood shifts. The tranquility of sacred waters becomes a stage for revelry. They drink deeply. Wine flows like river water. Songs turn into taunts. The reeds sway in the breeze, their metallic potential hidden. On an overcast afternoon, Satyaki, inebriated, confronts Kritavarma about killing sleeping warriors during the war. Words sharpen. Kritavarma retorts by reminding Satyaki of his own wrongdoing, killing an unarmed Burishravas who sat in prayer. Voices rise, old resentments ignite. In a flash of anger, Satyaki draws his sword and decapitates Kritavarma. Blood stains the sand. Pradyumna, your son, cheers Satyaki on, his own judgment clouded by drink. Others rush forward, trying to intervene. You run toward them, commanding them to stop. Enough, you cry over the din. But it is like shouting at the sea. In the heat of rage and alcohol, they do not hear. Someone reaches for a reed. It transforms in his hand into a hard iron bolt. Shock flickers through faces, then is swallowed by violence. The reeds become weapons in every hand. Friends strike friends. Brothers lash out against brothers. Shining eyes turn wild. Under a bleak, darkening sky, the Yadavas slaughter one another. Screams blend with the crash of waves and the whistle of reeds splitting air. Blood soaks into the sand that sacred waters had kissed. You stand amid this madness, desperate but helpless. You grab one reed-turned iron rod and break it over your knee, but more spring up. You strike at warriors to disarm them, but another appears, brandishing a weapon. You call out names, Ugrasena, Pradyumna, Satyaki, but the names are swallowed by the roar of chaos. You watch your son fall, his eyes still bright, then dim, his blood mixing with the surf. Satyaki's head rolls across the sand. Balarama, seeing the futility, lays down his plough and leaves the scene, walking toward the forest to meditate. You try to follow him, but someone grabs your arm. You see that the only way to end this is to let it burn out. This is Gandhari's curse. This is fate. The reeds you ordered pulverized have returned to finish what the sages decreed. When the frenzy ends, the shore is littered with the bodies of your kin. The sand, once pale, is blackened with blood and charred by burning pyres. Only Daruka, your charioteer, and Vabhru remain. Balarama is sitting in meditation near a tree, eyes closed, breathing slowing. He soon exhales his last and leaves his body. You send Daruka to Hastinapura to summon Arjuna, to protect the women and children who remain. You instruct Vabhru to guard the city, but an iron bolt, one last remnant, flies and strikes him, ending his life. Alone, you walk back into Dwarka. You see your father Vasudeva grieving. You embrace him. The next day, he dies while meditating. Your heart feels heavy, but strangely at peace. Everything has unfolded as foretold. You return to the forest where Balarama meditated. Your footsteps are soft on the needle-covered ground. The sky is overcast, but a few rays of sunlight filter through branches, creating patches of light on the forest floor. The smell of sap and damp leaves fills your nose. Each breath feels purposeful, each step measured. You sit down under a tree near where Balarama's body lies. You close your eyes and slow your breath, entering deep meditation. You know the end of your mortal journey is near. A hunter named Jara, seeing your left foot protruding from behind the brush and mistaking it for a deer's eye, draws his bow. The arrow he releases is tipped with iron made from the same cursed powder. It pierces your foot. Pain blossoms briefly, then quietens. Jara runs up, horrified at what he has done. You open your eyes and smile. You tell him it was ordained, that he is forgiven. Then you return to your meditation. Your breathing slows. The forest seems to hold its breath with you. The distant crash of waves becomes a lullaby. Slowly, gently, you let go of your mortal body, allowing your spirit to rise and merge with the infinite. After the destruction on the shore at Prabhasa, you walk inland. The air cools as you leave the beach behind. Salt gives way to the fresh scent of damp earth. The forest thickens around you, banyan and peepal trees intertwining their roots in an ancient dance. Light filters through the leaves in speckled patches, like a mosaic on the forest floor. The breeze rustles branches overhead, causing shadows to ripple. Somewhere in the distance, waves still crash against rocks, their steady rhythm echoing the constancy of time. Each breath you take tastes of both salt and soil, sea and land. The path is soft beneath your feet, covered with fallen leaves that crackle lightly as you step. You do not walk alone. Along the way, sages appear from hermitages tucked among the trees. They sense your presence and come to pay respects. Their hair is matted, their robes simple, their eyes bright with curiosity and reverence. They ask you questions about Dharma, about the nature of the self, about why destruction follows creation. You sit on a fallen log and answer gently. Nothing in this world is permanent, you say, fingers tracing a pattern in the dirt. Bodies age, kingdoms rise and fall, even clans like mine meet their end. Time is not a line but a circle. Each ending folds into a beginning. Our role is to act according to Dharma and to let go of results. They listen, nodding. One sage asks about grief. You reply that sorrow is natural, but clinging to it is like holding smoke. It disperses when you open your hand. Another asks if the world will ever be free of violence. You point to the breeze shaking leaves and the waves crashing against the shore. Change is inherent to nature, you say. Even destruction is part of a cycle that ultimately nourishes new life. The sages bow, eyes moist, some with gratitude, others with acceptance. As you continue, the forest opens onto a clearing. In the center, stands a grand banyan tree, its aerial roots dangling like threads of time itself. You feel drawn to it. Its trunk is wide enough to embrace all of humanity. Its leaves rustle, whispering secrets of countless years. You sit beneath its spreading canopy. Its roots reach into the earth like anchors, grounding you. You cross your legs, rest your hands on your knees, and close your eyes. The breeze caresses your face. The distant waves become a lullaby. In your mind, images flow. Your childhood mischief in Gokul, your battles on Kurukshetra, your teachings to Arjuna, the laughter of friends, the tears of mothers, the faces of sages. Each memory is a bead on a string, and you hold the string lightly. You breathe in deeply, then exhale, feeling tension leave your body. You begin to meditate, letting thoughts ebb and flow like the waves. Time seems to slow. The world narrows to the sound of your breath and the rustle of leaves. In this stillness, you sense the approach of someone else, a presence hesitating at the edge of the clearing. A hunter named Jara stands there, bow in hand. He is unaware of who you are. From his point of view, he sees only what looks like the eye of a deer glinting in the dappled light, the sole of your foot resting comfortably on the ground. Mistaking it for prey, he pulls his bowstring back and releases an arrow. The arrow flies straight and true, its iron tip, the remnant of the cursed powder, humming softly. It strikes your foot with a sharp sting. Your eyes flutter open, more in surprise than in pain. You look up calmly, seeing Jara's face shift from determination to horror. He drops his bow and runs forward, falling to his knees before you. He trembles, hands clasped, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I am so sorry," he stammers. "I did not know." You smile gently, the corners of your eyes crinkling. There is no anger in your gaze. You lift your hand and place it on his head. "Do not grieve," you whisper. "Everything happens according to destiny." You thank him for freeing you from your mortal body. He looks at you, confused and relieved. You close your eyes again. The pain in your foot pulses, then fades. You draw your awareness inward, focusing on the point between your brows. Your breath slows. You sense the vastness beyond this form, a space where all beginnings and endings merge. The banyan leaves rustle as if chanting a mantra. A beam of light seems to emanate from within you, rising upward. Your body feels lighter, as if made of air. The sounds around you fade until there is only silence. A silence akin to the hush in the room when Victoria first stood alone as queen, aware of the weight and freedom ahead. Here too there is both weight and release. You feel your individual self dissolving into the larger self, the ocean of consciousness. When you open your eyes, you are no longer within the confines of a single form. Your awareness expands, touching the leaves, the breeze, the waves, the hunter's beating heart. Jara sits, head bowed, still trembling. You bless him once more. "Go," you say softly. "Tell the story. Tell them I have returned to where I came from." He nods, then backs away, leaving the clearing. You look up at the sky through the banyan branches. It is a deep blue, clouds edged with gold. The sun is setting, casting long shadows. You rise in an invisible form, leaving the shell of your body sitting peacefully under the tree. The birds continue to sing. The waves continue to crash. Life continues its rhythm. The next chapter of Dwaraka sinking and survivors seeking refuge awaits. But for now, there is tranquility, a fitting end to a life lived in service of Dharma and love. The hunter's arrow vibrates in your foot like a tiny stringed instrument. The sensation is sharp, but fleeting, more startling than painful. Jara's eyes widen as he realizes his mistake. He drops his bow and kneels in the dust, his hands shaking, words tumbling from his lips, apologies, pleas, tears. You look at him with infinite calm and compassion. "Do not grieve," you say softly. "You were but an instrument of destiny." You recount how Gandhari, heartbroken after the war, cursed that your clan would perish, and how the sage's curse upon Samba brought about the iron reeds that were weapons in the drunken brawl. You explain that cosmic law weaves together curses, choices, and time into a tapestry of events that cannot be unraveled by one person's will. In forgiving Jara, you free him from guilt and model the release you yourself are about to embrace. As you speak, your life force begins to recede. The breeze through the banyan leaves seems to slow. Somewhere in the distance, waves crash against the shore of Prabhasa, their rhythm steady, indifferent. You close your eyes, drawing your consciousness inward. A warmth spreads from your heart outwards, then contracts, moving upward like a stream of light rising through your spine. When your breath ceases, the earth responds. A low tremor ripples through the ground. Birds take flight in sudden flurries. In Dwarka, lamps flicker and go out. People pause mid-step, sensing something intangible shifting. The earthquake is gentle, but unmistakable, like the shiver of a dying animal. At the same moment, the curse finds its final expression. Out at sea, the water begins to rise. Gentle waves swell into larger swells, then crest over the seawalls of Dwarka. The city's ornate palaces, marble pillars carved with lotus motifs, balconies draped with silk, courtyards where musicians once played, face the encroaching ocean. Residents rush to higher ground, gathering children and precious belongings, eyes wide with disbelief. The water laps at their ankles, then their knees. Statues of lions and elephants disappear under foam. Walls tremble as foundations soften. The sound of cracking stone echoes down streets like thunder. Slowly, inexorably, the sea claims everything. Fish swim past the thresholds of once grand halls. Seaweed wraps around golden columns. Swirls of sand and salt blur the outlines of rooms where kings once sat and queens once laughed. The city sinks, not with violence but with a somber dignity. It is an ending that speaks to the impermanence of even the grandest creations, a reminder that kingdoms rise and fall like waves. Daruka, your faithful charioteer, feels the earthquake and sees the waters rising. He runs to your father, Vasudeva, to tell him of your departure. Vasudeva's heart breaks. He dies soon after while meditating, his soul following yours. The few survivors, Daruka, Arjuna and the women, look back from the hills and see only the tips of spires before. They vanish beneath the ocean. Tears stream down their faces. They feel the weight of loss and the cleansing finality of the sea's embrace. The legends they will tell will be tinged with salt, with both sorrow and wonder. Meanwhile, the scene shifts beyond mortal sight. Freed from the limits of flesh, your consciousness expands. The banyan tree, the forest, the ocean, all fade. You rise through layers of being, leaving behind the tug of gravity and time. The light around you grows brighter, but does not hurt your eyes. It feels like warmth, like home. In that radiant realm, you see familiar faces, forms that are both you and beyond you. Vishnu, the preserver of worlds, sits upon the coils of the serpent Ananta, floating in a cosmic ocean. His eyes meet yours, and there is recognition without surprise. Lakshmi, goddess of abundance and your eternal consort, stands beside him, her smile luminous. They open their arms, and you step into their embrace. In that moment, you understand that all the roles you have played, shepherd boy, prince, friend, charioteer, teacher, lover, king, are threads in a vast tapestry woven by your own divine self. Looking down, you see the earth like a blue-green jewel, oceans shimmering, continents dark against the sea. You see the tiny flicker of Dwarka's submergence, the small bright spark of Parikshit's birth, the gentle flow of the Yamuna where gopis remember your flute. You see lives you have touched, and teachings you have given rippling outward. Impermanence below is balanced by eternal continuity above. The story is not finished. Your essence remains, not confined to a body but present in every moment that remembers love, duty, and play. In the quiet of the celestial embrace, you rest, knowing that the next chapter of the world will unfold in its time. When your human form dissolves into light and Dwarka sinks beneath the waves, life on earth carries on. Those who loved you, fought beside you and learned from you must decide how to live in a world without your physical presence. The Pandavas, weary after ruling fairly for decades, feel a tug toward higher peaks. One morning, Yudhishthira removes his crown, hands it to his grandson Parikshit, and exchanges silk for deerskin. He and his brothers leave their palace without fanfare. Their footsteps echo on marble, then muffle on earth. Clad in skins and rags, they walk north, toward the Himalaya. The air grows thinner and sharper. Snow glistens like powdered sugar on peaks that pierce the sky. One by one, the brothers and Draupadi fall along the path, each letting go of earthly attachments. Only Yudhishthira and a faithful dog continue. Eventually, even the king's feet leave the ground. Legend says that gods welcome him bodily into heaven. Behind him, Parikshit sits on the throne, the weight of duty settling on his shoulders, the fate of the Kuru dynasty resting in his hands. Parikshit's reign begins with ominous portents. Kali Yuga, an age of decline, is dawning. Parikshit tries to curb the age's influence, banishing the personified Kali from most places, but permitting him to reside in spaces of gambling, intoxication, and violence. He rules wisely, but is cursed to die in 7 days by a Brahmin's son. Accepting his fate, he renounces worldly duties and listens to stories of the divine. Sitting on the banks of the Ganges, he fasts and hears the Srimad Bhagavatam, a narration of your life and teachings, recited by Sukadeva Goswami to a gathering of sages. The sages themselves later assemble in the forest of Naimisaranya, performing a 1,000-year sacrifice and asking Suta Goswami to recount the Bhagavatam once more. Palm leaves rustle as they unroll manuscripts. The scent of burning ghee drifts through the grove. Cicadas buzz in the heat. They debate philosophy and listen to tales of your childhood mischief, your conversation with Arjuna, your dances with the gopis, your counsel to kings. This compilation becomes the Bhagavata Purana, a text that will preserve your stories for millennia. In villages and cities, life goes on. Farmers sow seeds and sing songs of Vrindavan. A mother hushes her child with a lullaby about a blue-skinned boy stealing butter. A warrior draws strength, remembering how you drove Arjuna's chariot. In temples carved of stone and in forests of sal trees, priests recite verses that recount your teachings. Bells ring, incense curls in the air, and somewhere an unseen flute seems to play, its melody carrying on the breeze, weaving through banyan roots and over rice paddies. Generations pass, each adding its own layer to the story. Scribes copy manuscripts by hand, their stylus tips stained with ink. Poets compose songs in languages that have yet to be born. Artists paint your form on palm leaves, temple, walls, and illuminated manuscripts. Conquerors come and go, empires rise and fall, yet the sound of your name on devotees' lips remains constant. Just as Queen Victoria's life continued to shape institutions and traditions long after her death, so too does your legacy reverberate. The Crystal Palace of British industry becomes a museum. The weight of her crown transforms into constitutional norms. In a parallel way, your childhood antics inspire festivals where pots of curd hang high and boys form human pyramids. Your council on the battlefield becomes a guidebook for seekers across religions. Temples spring up wherever a community takes root. Your stories cross oceans and continents, carried by travelers, traders, and monks. In the age after Krishna, time stretches and compresses. Years become centuries, become seconds in the cosmic scale. Yet in each moment, someone somewhere remembers a detail. The curve of your flute, the color of your skin, the way you teased Yashoda, the seriousness in your voice when you told Arjuna of duty. As you are celebrated, you are also questioned and interpreted. Philosophers debate the nature of your divinity. Sects emphasize different aspects: playful cowherd, cunning strategist, supreme being. Historians examine your stories in search of archaeological clues. The Bhagavata Purana is translated into dozens of languages. Commentaries proliferate. Festivals mark your birth, your dance, your departure. In some places, like Naimisaranya, pilgrims gather where sages once sat. They bathe in rivers, circumambulate sacred trees, and sit on stones smoothed by centuries of devotion. In the swirl of ritual and narrative, your essence remains accessible, not as history alone, but as an invitation. And now, dear listener, the story reaches you. Perhaps you sit in a room lit by a single lamp, or under a tree in a quiet park, or on a train rattling through a modern city. Perhaps you have only just heard of Krishna, or you grew up with his name echoing through your home. Maybe you relate to Arjuna's doubt, Draupadi's strength, or Yashoda's awe. The question implicit in this tale is not whether these events happened as described, but how they resonate within you. When you hear of a god who chose to live as a mischievous child, a charioteer and a king, do you feel a pull toward love, duty, or play? When you learn that even the grandest cities sink, does it change how you value what you have? When you reflect on the songs and scriptures that have crossed centuries, do you sense your place in a chain of listeners and tellers? As the chapter closes, the flute's melody lingers in the air. It bridges time and space, connecting you to villagers in ancient Vrindavan and to sages in Naimisaranya, to a queen in London and to a farmer in Gujarat. It whispers that stories are not just records, they are living threads. The final chapter will explore how this legacy of love and duty carries forward, inviting you to rest and let the narrative settle into your own life's rhythm. The melody of your flute, which has threaded through this entire story, lingers like a soft echo as we begin our final chapter. The notes you once played by the Yamuna now drift through centuries, resonating in temples, homes, and hearts. They remind us of the themes that knit your life together: love that embraces all beings, duty that upholds righteousness even when painful, and the playful wisdom that teaches through laughter. These themes are timeless because they mirror the experiences of every soul. We all know love, whether maternal, romantic, or devotional. We all feel the pull of duty to family, community, or conscience. And we all, at our best, let playfulness lighten our journey. Your life magnifies these universal threads, weaving them into a tapestry both extraordinary and familiar. As we reflect, it's clear that no life is singular. Each person contains multiple identities that accumulate and coexist. Queen Victoria was not just a monarch. She was a daughter, wife, mother, widow, and emblem of an empire. You too were shepherd and prince, mischievous child and charioteer, lover and statesman, friend and teacher. The Pandavas were warriors and kings, brothers and seekers. Even the listener of this tale carries many roles, perhaps parent, sibling, student, worker, dreamer, all layered within a single heart. Recognizing this multiplicity cultivates empathy. When we see that others, like ourselves, juggle roles and responsibilities, our judgments soften. We become more patient with our own contradictions and more understanding of those around us. With this awareness, the narrative's cadence slows. Picture yourself lying comfortably, a gentle weight covering you, perhaps a blanket or the caress of night air. Notice your breath, how it enters cool and leaves warm. Each inhalation nourishes your body. Each exhalation releases tension. Feel the muscles in your face relax, the small furrows between your brows smoothing. Let your shoulders drop and your jaw unclench. Thoughts may still flit through your mind, but you don't have to chase them. Let them drift like leaves on a stream. As the story winds down, its sounds become softer, as though you've stepped farther from the riverbank. The details blur into a soothing hum. The clatter of Kurukshetra and the laughter of Gokul recede, replaced by a gentle, rhythmic pulse, your own heartbeat. In this meditative space, consider how your life fits into something larger. Like waves rising and falling on the sea, our individual stories crest and ebb, but remain part of the ocean of existence. Kingdoms like Dwarka and civilizations like Victorian Britain rise and sink. Leaves bud and fall, stars are born and die. Yet love persists. Memory persists. The simple act of listening to this story connects you to countless others who have heard or told it, from sages in the forest of Naimisaranya to children in modern homes. Their breaths mingled with the same narrative currents that now lull you. In this way, devotion is not merely worship, it is participation in a timeless conversation. As your breathing becomes slower and deeper, allow gratitude to surface, not just for the joyful moments of the tale, but also for its sorrows and questions. Gratitude for Yashoda's awe, for Arjuna's doubt, for Draupadi's resilience, for Parikshit's curiosity, for Victoria's steadfastness, and even for your own struggles. Each element teaches. Each invites you to be more present, more compassionate, more aware. Feel gratitude for the quiet around you right now, for the opportunity to rest, for the trust you place in this story to carry you to sleep. Eventually, the words dissolve entirely. The flute's last note fades. The images of forests, palaces, and battlefields fade to black. Your mind slips from recalling events to simply being. Sleep invites you into its embrace, like the waves that welcome Dwarka, or the forests that welcome the Pandavas. Know that as you drift, you are not alone. You are held by the same threads of love, duty, and play that wove through Krishna's life. And when you wake, you will continue your own story, richer for having touched this one. In the grand weave of existence, every life matters, not because it is extraordinary, but because it is part of the whole. Rest now, dear listener. Let the timeless story cradle you and surrender to the rhythm of breath, knowing you are connected to all that was, is, and will be.